Greetings, road warriors. Tonight, our chronicle covers a peculiar phenomenon, a financial miracle that exists only within the digital borders of our favourite simulation. We are exploring the virtual economy, a place where market crashes are non-existent, fuel is always affordable enough, and bankruptcy is a ghost story told to frighten you drivers but never actually seen. It is a comforting world where the ledger almost always ends in black ink, regardless of how many mailboxes you flatten in a residential delivery zone. Let's be honest, backing a 53-foot trailer into a tight spot on the first try is a feeling that never gets old, even if you have to lean out of the virtual window to see that blind side. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Go ahead and drop your location and local time in the comments. I always like knowing where the convoy's parked for the night. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The journey begins not with the roar of an engine, but with the quiet, sterile silence of a menu screen. You select a home base, perhaps the dusty, sun-baked sprawl of Bakersfield, or the neon-soaked streets of Las Vegas, and you stand in an empty garage. There is no truck, no trailer, and remarkably, no debt. In the real world, entering the trucking industry as an owner-operator often involves signing your life away to a bank or a leasing agent before the first mile is ever driven. But here, in the forgiving embrace of the simulation, you are simply a driver for hire, a freelancer with a commercial driver's license that appeared out of thin air and a reputation that is perfectly neutral. This is the phase of the quick job, the humble beginning where the economy is rigged entirely in your favour. You open the job market and there they are, a list of desperate companies willing to entrust a $100,000 machine and a trailer full of electronics to a complete stranger with 0 miles on their logbook. It is a beautiful, nonsensical trust. You scroll through the offers, looking not for the most passion-filled route, but usually for the shortest one to get the feel of the controls. You select a short hop, maybe hauling used packaging from a depot in San Diego to a recycling centre in Los Angeles, and just like that, you are transported into the cab. The door thuds shut, sealing you inside a Peterbilt 579. It's not your truck, and that is the most liberating feeling in the world. In the trucking industry, there is a distinct psychological difference between a company driver and an owner-operator. The owner-operator hears every rattle in the dashboard as a potential $1,000 repair bill. The company driver just turns up the radio. As you turn the key and listen to the engine turn over, you're firmly in the latter camp. The fuel gauge is full, paid for by someone else. The tyres are fresh, paid for by someone else. Even the insurance deductible, should you decide to test the structural integrity of a highway divider, is a problem for a faceless corporate entity, not your personal savings account. You release the parking brake, that satisfying pneumatic psh, and ease the rig into gear. The transmission in these starter trucks is often an automated manual, doing the heavy lifting for you, smoothing out the shifts so you can focus on keeping the rubber between the lines. As you pull out of the depot, navigating the tight turn past a security gate, you realise the sheer safety of this economic model. In reality, the trucking industry operates on razor-thin margins. The average operating ratio, operating expenses divided by operating revenue, for a trucking company often hovers around 95% to 97%. That means for every dollar a real-world trucking company brings in, they might only keep 3 to 5 pennies as profit. One blown tyre, one unexpected tow bill, or a sudden spike in diesel prices can wipe out a month's worth of hard driving. But here, as you merge onto the freeway, watching the AI traffic behave with its usual mix of caution and inexplicable aggression, those margins don't exist. Your revenue is pure income. You aren't paying for the fuel you're burning at 7 miles per gallon. You aren't setting aside money for the inevitable engine overhaul. You're simply trading time for credits, a direct exchange with 0 overhead. It creates a relaxing, almost hypnotic loop. The scenery rolls by, the dry scrub brush of the Mojave, or the lush green corridors of the Pacific Northwest, and your only responsibility is to arrive. Let's look at the machine you've been loaned for this first excursion. It's likely a fleet spec truck, stripped of the chrome and chicken lights that adorn the owner-operator rigs we admire at truck shows. It might be a Kenworth T680, a staple of modern fleets due to its aerodynamic efficiency. PACCAR, the parent company of both Kenworth and Peterbilt, introduced the T680 to push the boundaries of fuel economy, utilising a sloped hood and fairings to slice through the air. It's a marvel of engineering, but right now, you treat it with the casual indifference one reserves for a rental car. You floor the throttle on the on-ramp, watching the RPM gauge climb into the yellow, not caring in the slightest about the wear and tear on the pistons. Why would you? By the time this engine needs a rebuild, you'll be 5 states away in a different truck entirely. There is a technical nuance to these fleet trucks that the simulation captures well: the governor. In the real world, large carriers often electronically limit their trucks to 62 or 65 miles per hour to save on fuel and reduce liability. In the early game, however, you might find these borrowed trucks have a bit more freedom, or perhaps you haven't yet toggled the truck speed limiter option in the gameplay settings. You find yourself cruising at 70, passing a slow-moving flatbed, feeling the sway of the trailer as you change lanes. The physics engine communicates the weight of the cargo, perhaps 40,000 pounds of frozen vegetables, through the force feedback in your wheel. You have to swing wide for the off-ramp, monitoring your mirrors to ensure the trailer tyres don't clip the soft shoulder. It brings to mind the stories of real-world slip seat operations, where drivers swap trucks at the end of a shift, never calling one specific cab their home. Veterans often complain about slip seating. The seat is never adjusted right, the mirrors are all wrong, and the previous driver left sunflower seed shells in the cup holder. But in our virtual world, every borrowed truck is pristine, the cabin is spotless, the air conditioning is presumably set to a perfect 70 degrees. It is the sanitized ideal of the profession. You're a tourist in the trucking lifestyle, enjoying the sights without the back pain or the smell of stale coffee. As you navigate the final few miles of this first delivery, the sun begins to set, casting long orange shadows across the dashboard. The instrument cluster lights up, a soft array of green and amber dials. This is where the bedtime aspect of the drive truly kicks in. The rhythmic thrum of the tyres on the asphalt becomes a lullaby. You're participating in a tradition that dates back decades, though the roads themselves have a deeper history. Consider the interstate highway system you're likely travelling on. It was authorised by the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956, signed by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Eisenhower had been impressed by the German Autobahn during World War II and envisioned a similar network for the United States, primarily for defence and rapid mobilisation. Today, it serves as the artery of commerce, and in your case, the playground for your risk-free financial accumulation. You pull into the destination, a large distribution centre with docks lined up like teeth. This is the only moment of potential stress, the parking manoeuvre. You could choose the easy option, the safe parking that skips the reversing entirely, but you need the experience points. You need the satisfaction. So you swing the truck around, setting up for a 45-degree back. You put it in reverse. The backup beeper sounds beep, 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 a sound that cuts through the evening air. You turn the wheel left to make the trailer go right. It's a counterintuitive dance that takes years to master in reality. But here, with the external camera view just a button press away, you slide it in perfectly. The outline turns green. You set the parking brake. The job summary screen appears. Excellent, it says. You've earned a few $1,000s and a handful of experience points. The money goes straight into your account. No taxes were deducted. No fuel surcharge was removed. No dispatcher took a cut. It is pure, unadulterated profit. You're still level 0, or perhaps you've just ticked over to level 1. You're a newbie, according to the game's ranking system, but you are a wealthy newbie. You have 0 liabilities. You have 0 expenses. You're standing in the digital equivalent of a gold mine, holding a shovel that someone else paid for. This early phase of the game is deceptive because it teaches you that trucking is all reward and no risk. It sets a baseline of expectation that money flows easily, that the road is a generous provider. You check your bank balance. It's small, but it's yours. You could do another quick job, maybe a longer one this time, from Nevada into Arizona. You could drive a Scania or a Volvo this time just to see how the other half lives. The freedom of choice is intoxicating. You're dating the industry, not married to it. You don't have to worry about the cost of a replacement turbocharger or the rising price of comprehensive insurance. But as the screen fades back to the main menu and you see your driver avatar looking confident in a stock flannel shirt, a thought begins to creep in. The quick jobs are easy, yes, they are safe, but they lack ownership. You are driving generic trucks with generic paint jobs. You can't install that custom bull bar you saw in the upgrade shop. You can't hang fuzzy dice from the mirror. The siren call of capitalism begins to whisper. You want your own rig. You want to see your name on the door. And to do that, you're going to need more money than these safe little runs can provide. You're going to need capital. And since you don't have the patience to grind out 50 more quick jobs to save up the cash, you look toward the one button on the menu that promises instant gratification. The bank. There is a moment in every virtual trucker's career when the allure of the bank icon becomes irresistible. It sits there on the user interface, unassuming, perhaps represented by a simple currency symbol or a classic Greek column icon. In the real world, walking into a bank to ask for a commercial loan is a process fraught with anxiety, credit checks, business plans, and the very real possibility of rejection. You wear your best suit, you present your projections, and you hope the loan officer believes in your vision of hauling refrigerated goods across the Midwest. But in the simulation, the bank is less of a financial institution and more of a benevolent, infinitely wealthy uncle who just wants to see you succeed. You click the icon. The screen changes to a display of available loans. There is no credit check. The game does not care that you have been driving for a total of 3 in-game days. It does not care that your only asset is a virtual garage you were gifted at the start. It simply offers you money. A small loan of $10,000, a larger one of $50,000, and then the big one, the one that usually requires a few levels of experience to unlock but sits there tantalizingly. The $100,000 and $400,000 loans. The terms are laid out clearly. The interest rates are fixed and surprisingly reasonable, usually around 12% to 18% annually, but calculated in daily installments that seem trivial compared to the payouts you're seeing from your jobs. Let's analyze this for a moment. In the real economy, a startup trucking company is considered high risk. New authorities, that is, new trucking licenses granted by the Department of Transportation, often face sky-high insurance premiums because statistics show that new ventures are more likely to fail or be involved in accidents. Banks know this. They tighten the purse strings. But the virtual bank operates on a different set of actuarial tables. It assumes you will succeed. In fact, it assumes you cannot fail. It offers you $100,000 with a click. No signatures, no collateral, just a daily deduction of a few $100s from your account. It is the kind of liquidity that real-world entrepreneurs dream of. You take the loan. Of course you do. Why grind for weeks when you can have the capital now? You click borrow, and instantly the balance in the top right corner of your screen swells. You're rich. You have 6 figures in the bank. The feeling is euphoric. It's a rush of dopamine that completely bypasses the logic of earned value. You haven't hauled the freight to earn this money. You've simply mortgaged your future labor. But because the game economy is so forgiving, you know, deep down, that paying it back will be effortless. This is the Benevolent Banker mechanic, a staple of simulation games designed to remove the friction of early game poverty. It allows players to skip the struggle phase and move straight to the acquisition phase. It changes your psychology. A moment ago, you were a humble employee driver, grateful for whatever scrap route the quick job market threw your way. Now, you're a capitalist with purchasing power. You begin to browse the truck dealerships with a critical eye. You aren't looking for a hand-me-down, you're looking for a flagship. Consider the role of credit in the actual trucking industry. The Motor Carrier Act of 1980 deregulated the industry, leading to a flood of new entrants. Independent owner-operators surged onto the highways, many financed by loans that were easy to get but hard to keep up with. The 1980s and 90s saw a cycle of boom and bust, where easy credit led to overcapacity, too many trucks chasing too little freight, which drove rates down and put those same borrowers out of business. It's a brutal cycle known as the trucking bloodbath. But here, in our digital sanctuary, overcapacity is impossible. The freight market is infinite. There are always more pallets of used packaging or construction equipment than there are trucks to haul them. The bank knows this. The bank knows you are a safe bet because the universe you inhabit is structurally incapable of a recession. With the loan secured, you might find yourself doing the mental math on the daily payments. Okay, you think, the loan costs me $2,500 a day in repayments. A single job pays $5,000. If I drive 1 job a day, I'm profitable. It is simple arithmetic that ignores the complexities of real life: breakdowns, illness, traffic jams, holidays. In the game, you don't get sick. You don't need to take a week off for a family emergency. You are a machine that operates the machine. The bank's benevolence is predicated on your tireless robotic efficiency. As you stare at your inflated bank balance, you might decide to upgrade your garage before even buying a truck. The tiny single-bay shed you started with is quaint, but you have ambitions. You spend a chunk of that loan to expand the garage. The construction is instantaneous. One click, a sound effect of hammers and saws, and suddenly your dusty shed is a 3-bay depot with a fuel pump in the yard. In reality, expanding a commercial facility involves zoning permits, contractors, environmental impact studies for the fuel tanks, and months of construction delays. Here, the zoning board is silent. The EPA is non-existent. You simply will the building into existence with the power of your borrowed money. This easy access to capital also serves a specific gameplay function. It hooks you. Once you have the loan, you have a daily obligation. You must drive. You can't just let the game sit idle, or the daily deductions will drain your account into the negative, though even then the consequences are mild. It creates a gentle pressure, a reason to log in every evening. It mimics the debt trap of real life but strips away the anxiety. In real life, debt keeps you awake at night. In the simulator, debt gives you a purpose. It gives you a reason to take that. Long-haul job from Seattle to New Mexico. You're driving to service the debt, but the driving is so pleasant and the scenery so beautiful that you don't mind the servitude. Let's touch on the trucks you can now afford. With $100,000 or more, you're looking at the entry-level models of the major brands, maybe a Volvo VNL. The VNL series is renowned for its driver comfort and safety features. Volvo invented the 3-point seatbelt in 1959 and gave the patent away for the benefit of humanity, a fact that always adds a layer of respect when you climb into one of their cabs. In the game, the VNL offers excellent visibility and a quiet ride. Or perhaps you're eyeing a Freightliner Cascadia, the most common truck on American roads today. It's the workhorse of the industry, aerodynamic and reliable. With the bank's money, these aren't just traffic obstacles anymore, they are potential partners. You might even get reckless and take out another loan. The game often lets you stack them. Why not take the $400,000 loan too? Now you have $500,000. You're rich beyond your wildest level 1 dreams. You could buy a truck for yourself and 2 more for AI drivers you haven't even hired yet. The financial leverage is staggering. In the real world, being leveraged 5 to 1 on depreciating assets like trucks is a recipe for disaster. Trucks lose value the moment they drive off the lot. But in the virtual economy, depreciation is a slow, linear curve that barely impacts your bottom line. You can sell a truck back to the dealer later for a very respectable percentage of its original price. The spread is narrow. The risk is managed. So there you sit, a virtual millionaire in debt but rich in potential. The bank has done its job. It has greased the wheels of commerce. It has transformed you from a drifter into a tycoon. The anxiety of the quick job menu is gone. You no longer have to drive what they tell you to drive. You have the freedom of the owner-operator, purchased with digital credit that feels limitless. As you prepare to leave the menu and head to the truck dealership, take a moment to appreciate the silence of this transaction. No paperwork, no handshakes, no collateral, just a number on a screen that went up, allowing you to participate in the fantasy of ownership. It is the cleanest, most sanitized financial transaction possible, and it sets the stage for the next great step, the purchase. The moment you commit to a specific collection of metal, rubber and glass that will become your avatar on the asphalt. The bank has cleared the path, now you must choose your chariot. The cursor hovers over the truck dealer's map icon. It's a moment of legitimate anticipation. You have the bank's money burning a hole in your digital pocket, and the map of dealerships is open before you. In the world of American Truck Simulator or Euro Truck Simulator 2, buying your first truck is a rite of passage. It is the moment you transition from a transient worker to a stakeholder. You're no longer driving a truck, you're driving your truck. You select a dealer. Maybe it's a Kenworth showroom in Phoenix. You click Visit Selected Dealer, and the scene shifts. The showroom floor is bright, the lighting specifically designed to make the chrome gleam and the paint pop. There they are, the Iron Giants. The Kenworth W900 sits there, a long-nosed classic that screams old school. It's a brick in the wind, aerodynamically inefficient but stylistically perfect. The square hood, the external air cleaners, the vertical exhaust stacks. It is the truck of legends, the kind of rig that starred in movies like Smokey and the Bandit. In the real world, buying a W900 as your first truck is a bold, perhaps foolish financial move due to its fuel thirst. But here, the cool factor is the only metric that truly matters. Or perhaps you look at the Peterbilt 389. Similar to the W900, it is an icon of the American highway. Peterbilt was founded in 1939 by T.A. Peterman, a lumber tycoon who was frustrated with the trucks available at the time and decided to build his own. That legacy of rugged, custom-built durability persists. The 389 is the successor to the legendary 379, and in the game, it is a favourite for players who want to feel like a real trucker, shunning the modern plastic curves of the fleet trucks for the riveted aluminum of a classic hood. You click on the configuration tool. This is where the magic happens. You aren't just buying off the lot, you're spec'ing the truck. You choose the cabin. A day cab is cheaper, lighter and better for tight manoeuvring, but you want the immersion of the sleeper. You select the largest sleeper berth available, a 72-inch or 86-inch studio sleeper. In reality, these sleepers are tiny apartments, complete with refrigerators, microwave spaces, and sometimes even fold-down workstations. In the game, it just means you have a bed to rest in when the fatigue meter turns red, and the external model looks more imposing. Next, the chassis. 6 pesos 4 is the standard, 3 axles total, with the rear 2 powered. You could go for a 6 pesos 2 to save weight and fuel, lifting 1 axle when you're empty, but the 6 pesos 4 offers better traction for those heavy loads you plan to haul up the grapevines of California. Then, the engine. You scroll through the list of Cummins, X15s, or Packard MX13s. The horsepower numbers tempt you. 400 horsepower is sensible, 500 is good, 600 is excessive. You choose the 550 EP option. Why not? You have the loan. The torque rating is the real number to watch. 1850 or 2050 lb-ft of torque will let you pull a loaded trailer up a 6% grade without downshifting into the basement. The transmission choice is critical. In the modern trucking world, automated manual transmissions, AMTs, like the Eaton Endurant or the Volvo iShift have taken over. They're efficient, smooth and reduce driver fatigue. But many sim truckers opt for the 18-speed manual Eaton Fuller. The 18-speed is a badge of honour. It requires a specific shifting pattern involving a range selector and a splitter. You shift through the first 4 gears, flip the range selector, go back to the first position, which is now 5th, and continue. The splitter lets you split each gear into a high and low setting. It's a mechanical symphony. Even if you're playing on a keyboard or a controller, selecting the manual option gives you a sense of agency over the machine. You aren't just steering, you are driving. Finally, the paint job. This is where your personality bleeds into the game. Do you go with a sensible fleet white? Absolutely not. You choose a metallic midnight blue or a fiery red, or perhaps one of the custom skins that paints an eagle soaring across the side of the sleeper. You add accessories, a sun visor to cut the glare, air horns on the roof, maybe some extra running lights along the side skirts. Every click adds a few $100s to the price tag, but you don't care. You hit purchase. The screen fades, and then there you are. Not in a menu, but in the driver's seat. Your driver's seat. The view is familiar, yet different. You adjusted the mirrors. You set the seat position. You look around the cabin. It's yours. There is a psychological shift that happens here. When you scratch the paint on a quick job truck, you shrug. When you scratch the paint on your truck, you wince. You feel it. You become protective of the asset. You turn the key. The engine roars to life. A sound you chose. You release the parking brake. You pull out of the dealership lot, merging into traffic not as a guest, but as a resident. You are now an owner-operator. In the United States, owner-operators are the backbone of the independent spirit of trucking. There are roughly 350,000 to 400,000 owner-operators in the US, individuals who run their own small businesses on 18 wheels. They face immense challenges, fluctuating fuel costs, regulatory burdens, and the constant hunt for profitable freight. But you have bypassed the struggle. You have the truck without the headache. You drive to the nearest job market icon to pick up your first load as an owner. The freight market is now available to you. Unlike the quick job market where the truck is provided, here you bring your own rig. The pay is significantly higher. You see a load of medical equipment going from Phoenix to Albuquerque. The rate per mile is enticing. You accept the contract. Driving your own truck to the pickup location adds a new layer of gameplay. Deadhead. Deadhead is the miles. You drive empty to get to the cargo. In the real world, deadhead is the enemy. It is burning fuel without generating revenue. Truckers hate it. Dispatchers fight to minimize it. In the game, driving your shiny new truck empty is a joyride. You feel the acceleration of the bobtail, the truck without a trailer. You enjoy the handling. You arrive at the shipper, back up to the dock and connect to the trailer. As you hook up, you hear the clank of the kingpin locking into the fifth wheel. You retract the landing gear. You connect the airlines. Well, you press a button and the game simulates it. You pull out, heavy now, the engine working harder. You glance at the dashboard computer. The fuel economy gauge is now relevant. You are paying for this diesel. You start to drive a little differently. Maybe you don't floor it at every green light. Maybe you use the cruise control a bit more. The ownership has introduced a subtle element of resource management that wasn't there before. But let's not overstate the difficulty. Even with the cost of fuel and repairs now coming out of your pocket, the economy is still incredibly generous. You are about to embark on a journey where the per-mile rate is a fantasy of wealth, which we will explore soon. For now, enjoy the honeymoon phase, you and your machine rolling down the highway. You check the external camera view, admiring the way the sun glints off your custom paint. You honk the air horn at a passing train just because you can. The sun dips lower as you cross the state line. The Welcome to New Mexico sign flashes by. You are building an empire 1 mile at a time. The loan payments will start tomorrow, but for tonight, you are the king of the road. The truck is running smooth, the temperature gauges are steady, and the road stretches out endlessly before you. You have signed the papers, metaphorically speaking, and unlike the real world, you haven't signed away your soul, just a few bits of digital currency that you'll earn back in a week. The honeymoon with your new truck is sweet, but it is the first paycheck that truly seals the deal. You pull into the delivery depot in Albuquerque, the medical equipment safely stowed in the trailer behind you. You navigate the yard, perform a respectable straight-back parking maneuver, and shut down the engine. The summary screen pops up and you stare at the numbers. The payout is astronomical. Let's talk about the fantasy of $50 per mile. In the simulation, especially as you level up and put points into long-distance and high-value cargo skills, the rates you are offered are untethered from reality. You might see a job offering $80,000 for a 1,500-mile trip. That breaks down to over $53 per mile. To put this in perspective, in the real-world trucking industry, the spot rate, the current market price for moving freight, fluctuates wildly, but generally hovers between $2 and $3.50 per mile for dry van freight, depending on market conditions. During the pandemic supply chain crunch, rates spiked, and drivers were celebrating $4 or $5 a mile. A rate of $50 per mile is the stuff of fever dreams. It's the kind of money you'd expect for transporting nuclear warheads through an active war zone, not for hauling frozen peas from Oregon to Utah. This inflation is deliberate. It is the hero economy. The game wants you to feel successful. It wants you to feel progression. If the simulator paid real-world rates, you would have to drive for hours just to afford a new set of tyres. You would be grinding for weeks to pay off that initial bank loan. Instead, one good long-haul trip can pay off a significant chunk of your truck's mortgage. The feedback loop is tightened. The dopamine hit is bigger. You're not just a trucker, you are a high-earning logistics executive who happens to drive the truck. Consider the implications of this. In the real world, a trip from Los Angeles to New York is about 2,800 miles. At an optimistic $250 per mile, that run grosses $7,000. Out of that $7,000, the driver, or owner-operator, must pay for approximately 400 gallons of diesel, costing roughly $1,600 to $2,000, tolls, food, and set aside money for maintenance and taxes. The net profit might be a few $1,000s for a week of grueling work. In the game, that same run could easily net you $150,000. You could buy a brand new truck with the proceeds of a single coast-to-coast drive. This disparity creates a fascinating psychological safety net. You can afford to be inefficient. You can take the scenic route. You can detour to see the Grand Canyon or drive up the Pacific Coast Highway just because the sun looks nice on the water. In the real world, out-of-route miles are a sin. Every mile driven that isn't moving the freight toward the destination is money lost. Dispatchers track trucks via GPS and will call drivers to ask why they are 5 miles off the suggested route. Why are you on Highway 101? The interstate is faster. They would scream. But in the simulator, you are the master of your own destiny. The massive profit margins subsidize your tourism. There is a technical aspect to how the game calculates these rates. It uses a base rate multiplied by skill bonuses. As you level up, you unlock skills in a vaguely RPG-like menu. Long distance allows you to take longer jobs, which inherently pay more. High-value cargo gives a percentage bonus to expensive goods. Just-in-time delivery gives a bonus for urgent shipments. By the time you're level 20, you're stacking these multipliers. A delivery of dynamite, high-value plus hazmat, that is urgent, just in time, and goes 2,000 miles, long distance, results in a payout that would bankrupt a real-world shipping company. This economic abundance changes how you perceive the world. You stop looking at fuel prices. Who cares if diesel is $4 to $50 a gallon or $6 a gallon when you're making 50 a mile? The fuel cost becomes a rounding error. You stop worrying about speeding tickets. A $1,000 fine for doing 80 in a 55 zone. That's pocket change. It's the cost of doing business. In reality, a speeding ticket is a serious mark on a commercial driver's license, CDL. Too many, and you become uninsurable. You lose your livelihood. In the game, the police are just toll collectors who occasionally ask for a small donation in exchange for your need for speed. Let's look at a specific example of this rich trucker phenomenon. You pick up a load of heavy machinery, maybe a massive excavator in Seattle. You're taking it to San Diego. The route takes you down I-5, the arterial vein of the West Coast. In reality, I-5 is a challenging road. It's crowded, the pavement in some sections is rough, and the climb over the Siskiyou summit at the Oregon-California border is a notorious transmission killer. But in your virtual cab looking at a payout of $95,000, the traffic is just ambient texture. You glide up the Siskiyou summit, your engine temperature gauge barely moving. You pass the truck's 55 mph signs in California doing 70, knowing the fine is irrelevant. You are bulletproof. This financial cushion also removes the predatory nature of the brokerage industry. In real trucking, finding a load involves using load boards, where brokers post freight. It's a negotiation. Brokers often try to lowball drivers, keeping a larger cut of the shipper's fee for themselves. Drivers have to haggle, build relationships, and sometimes take bad loads just to get into a better market area. In the game, the freight market is a transparent, honest list. The price listed is the price paid. There is no middleman taking a 20% cut. It is a utopian vision of labour where the worker receives the full value, or rather an inflated value, of their work without negotiation. The fantasy of $50 per mile also impacts your equipment choices. Because money is so easy to come by, you tend to overspec your trucks. In reality, a fleet manager buys the truck that will do the job for the lowest cost. They buy the 450 horsepower engine because it gets better fuel mileage than the 600 horsepower one. They spec cloth seats because leather is expensive. In the game, because you're swimming in cash, you buy the 600 horsepower engine for a truck that will mostly haul styrofoam. You buy the premium interior with the wood grain dash. You put 18 lights on the roof. Why? Because you can. The economy encourages excess. As you drop off that load in San Diego and watch your bank balance tick upward, crossing the threshold where you could pay off your loan entirely if you wanted to, but you don't, because why spend your own capital? You realize that this simulator is not simulating the business of trucking. It is simulating the romantic ideal of trucking. It is simulating the feeling of freedom and power, stripping away the financial anxiety that defines the lives of actual owner-operators. You pull out of the San Diego depot, the sun setting over the Pacific. You have enough money to buy another garage, maybe one in Flagstaff, or maybe you'll expand into Oregon. The map is your oyster. The sheer profitability of your labor validates your time spent in the game. It tells you, you're good at this, you're successful. And in a world where real-life economics can feel capricious and unfair, that steady, inflated, guaranteed paycheck is a powerful sedative. It lets you relax. It lets you drive. It lets you pretend for a few hours that the road is paved with gold. The low fuel warning light is a universal signal of anxiety. It glows amber on the dashboard, a silent reminder that your machine is thirsty and the law of thermodynamics cannot be ignored. In the real world, this light triggers a complex calculus in a driver's mind. Where is the next approved fuel stop? What is the current price per gallon at the Pilot versus the Loves? Do I have enough loyalty points for a free shower? But here, on the pixelated highway, the light is merely a suggestion to take a short break. You spot the blue exit sign with the pump icon, tap the blinker, and glide down the off-ramp toward a sprawling travel centre. Refueling in the simulator is a sterile, streamlined affair. You pull up to the green square marker, which amusingly is often the only part of the truck stop that interacts with you, and you stop. A prompt appears. Turn off engine to refuel. You hit the E key, or your mapped button. The engine shudders to a halt and you hold down Enter. A sound effect plays, a generic gurgle of liquid rushing through a pipe, and a progress bar fills up. Your bank account ticks down by a few hundred or perhaps $1,000. The bar hits full. You restart the engine and drive away. The whole process takes 12 seconds. You don't even have to step out of the cab. Contrast this with the sensory assault of a real-world fuel island. When a driver pulls a Class 8 truck up to the pumps, they are committing to a physical ritual. They have to climb out, often into the biting cold or sweltering heat. The air is thick with the smell of diesel, a heavy, oily scent that permeates clothes and upholstery. They have to swipe fleet cards, enter unit numbers and mileage into a keypad with sticky buttons, and then comes the actual mechanics of it. Most long-haul trucks have saddle tanks, 2 fuel tanks, one on each side of the chassis, connected by a crossover line or drawn from simultaneously. To fill them efficiently, the driver has to unhook nozzles on both sides of the truck. They stand there, squeezing the handle, listening to the high-speed pumps roar, watching the gallons tick by. It is a loud, messy industrial process, and we haven't even mentioned the diesel exhaust fluid, DEF, that urea-based solution required by modern emission systems, which needs its own separate blue-capped tank filled. In the game, fuel is just another variable, easily managed, but in reality, fuel is the tyrant that rules the industry. It is the single largest operating expense for a truck, often exceeding the driver's wages or the truck payments. This brings us to the myth of efficiency that the simulator perpetuates. In the game, you likely drive with the throttle pinned to the floor. You accelerate hard out of toll booths. You maintain 75 miles per hour up a grade if your engine can handle it. You do this because time is money and fuel is cheap relative to your inflated paycheck. Real-world trucking is a discipline of conservation. Every mile per hour above 60 decreases fuel efficiency by roughly 0.1 miles per gallon. That sounds trivial until you do the math on 120,000 miles a year. A truck getting 6.5 mpg versus 7.5 mpg can mean a difference of over $10,000 annually in pure profit. This reality birthed the era of the aerodynamic fleet truck and the automated manual transmission, which is programmed to shift at the precise moment to keep the engine in its sweet spot, usually between 100 and 300 RPM. In the game, you might rev your Cat C15 engine to 1/800 RPM just to hear it scream, burning virtual dinosaur juice with reckless abandon. There is a historical footprint to this obsession with fuel. The pivotal moment was the 1973 oil crisis. An embargo by OPEC nations caused fuel prices to quadruple. In response, President Richard Nixon signed the Emergency Highway Energy Conservation Act in 1974, which mandated a national speed limit of 55 miles per hour. This law was despised by truckers. It slowed down commerce and forced gearheads to crawl. It was this specific regulation that exploded the popularity of the CB radio, as drivers used them to warn each other of smokies, police, so they could keep speeding. While the 55 MP8 national limit was eventually repealed in 1995, the industry never stopped chasing efficiency. The game, however, lets you live in a pre-1973 fantasy of cheap oil and heavy feet. Another massive element of fuel consumption the game glosses over is idling. In the simulator, you can park your truck in a rest area, leave the engine running to listen to that soothing idle rumble, and go make yourself a sandwich in real life. You come back, and maybe your fuel gauge has dropped a pixel. In the real world, a 15-litre diesel engine burns about 1 gallon of fuel per hour at idle. If a driver idles for 10 hours during their mandatory rest break to keep the heat or air conditioning running, that's 10 gallons gone, roughly $40 to $50 literally up in smoke every single night. This cost is so significant that the industry invented APUs, auxiliary power units. These are small, generator-like engines mounted to the frame rail that sip fuel much more slowly to provide power and climate control to the sleeper berth. Or you might see electrified parking spaces at some truck stops, where drivers plug in like giant toaster ovens. The game does not simulate the APU, it does not simulate the idle air window adapters, and it certainly doesn't simulate the draconian anti-idling laws found in states like California. The California Air Resources Board, CARB, has strict regulations that prohibit idling for more than 5 minutes. In the real world, a driver in Los Angeles is sweating in their cab or relying on battery-powered HVAC systems to stay legal. In the game, you can idle your 1980s Kenworth W900, a truck that likely emits more particulate matter than a small volcano, right in the middle of downtown San Francisco for a week, and the only consequence is a slightly lower fuel bar. The environmental impact is scrubbed clean. The eco-driving skill in the game is simply a passive stat boost that magically reduces fuel consumption by up to 35% at the highest level. It doesn't require you to change your habits, it just rewrites the laws of physics in your favour. Let's look at the fuel station as a hub concept. In the game, the fuel station is a pit stop. You get in, you get out. You might repair your truck there if there's a trigger, or sleep in the parking lot. But the social ecosystem of the truck stop, the fuel island etiquette, is missing. In reality, pulling forward after fueling is the golden rule. You fill up, then you pull forward to the line so the driver behind you can start fueling while you go inside to get your receipt and a terrifyingly old roller grill hot dog. If you block the pump in real life while you go inside to browse sunglasses, you will return to find a very angry line of truckers and possibly some colourful commentary on the CB radio. In the virtual world, the AI drivers are infinitely patient. They will wait behind you at the pump for eternity, engines idling, never honking, never complaining. You are the main character, and they are just props. There is also the matter of fuel quality. In the game, diesel is diesel. In reality, drivers worry about bad fuel, fuel with water in it, or fuel that gels up in the winter. Winter driving requires winter blend diesel or additives to prevent the fuel from turning into a waxy slush in the fuel lines at sub-zero temperatures. If you've ever seen a truck stalled on the side of the road in North Dakota in January, with a driver pouring a bottle of red liquid into the tank, that's what's happening. The game simulates the visual beauty of winter, if you use mods or specific map DLCs, but it spares you the chemical warfare required to keep a diesel engine running in 20-degree weather. As you pull away from the pump in the simulator, your tank is full, likely 300 gallons if you have the big tanks. That's a range of nearly 2,000 miles in-game. You feel secure, the cost was deducted, but your balance is still astronomical. You merge back onto the highway, the engine singing its song. The fuel economy gauge on your dashboard might read 4.5 mpg because you are hauling a heavy transformer, but you don't cringe, you don't calculate the surcharge, you just drive. This simplification allows us to enjoy the mechanical beauty of the truck without the financial terror of feeding it. It turns the fuel gauge from a ticking time bomb into a simple resource bar, like health or mana in an RPG. It allows us to drive the biggest, least efficient, most aerodynamic brick-like trucks simply because they look cool, and ultimately that is why we are here. We aren't here to save the planet or maximize shareholder value. We are here to burn virtual dinosaur juice and look good doing it. So with the tanks topped off and the virtual wallet slightly lighter but still bursting, we push the throttle down. The turbo spools up, that high-pitched whistle that is music to a gearhead's ears. We leave the station behind, passing a billboard for a fictional burger chain, and head back toward the open road. The myth of efficiency protects us. We are free to be wasteful, and in a world of constant conservation, that is a rare and guilty pleasure. The open road is hypnotic, and sometimes that hypnosis leads to a rude awakening. We have all been there. You're cruising down Interstate 80 in Nevada, the flat desert stretching out to the horizon, the cruise control set to 75. You glance at your second monitor to check a Discord notification, or you reach for your coffee mug and miss the handle. In that split second of distraction, the truck drifts. The rumble strip vibrates your controller, a frantic tactile warning, but it's too late. The front right fender kisses the steel guardrail. Crunch. The sound is jarring, a violent synthesis of tearing metal and shattering glass. The cab lurches, the screen shakes. In the real world, a collision between an 80,000-pound combination vehicle and a stationary object at highway speeds is a catastrophic event. The physics involved are terrifying. Kinetic energy equals half the mass times the velocity squared. When you square the velocity of a loaded semi-truck, the energy released is enough to shear bolts, twist frame rails like licorice, and scatter cargo across 3 lanes of traffic. It is a career-ending, insurance-cancelling, potential life-altering disaster. But here, in the gentle simulation, you bounce. The truck ricochets off the guardrail with the physics of a heavy billiard ball. You wrestle the steering wheel back to centre, heart racing for a moment, and then you glance at the route advisor in the corner of your screen. A small red icon has appeared. Damage, 6%. This is the great forgiveness of the virtual economy. The consequences of failure are reduced to a minor arithmetic inconvenience. Your truck, which by all rights should be a steaming pile of wreckage waiting for a heavy-duty tow truck, is merely damaged. You might notice the engine starts to hiccup. Maybe it stalls when you come to a stop, or perhaps the transmission skips a gear. But it runs. The integrity of the machine is treated as a hit point bar in a role-playing game. As long as you have 1% health remaining, you're still in the fight. Let's consider the reality of recovery. In the actual trucking industry, if you put a rig in a ditch or wrap it around a Jersey barrier, you're at the mercy of the heavy wreckers. These are not your standard OA tow trucks. These are massive, specialised machines, often called rotators, equipped with hydraulic booms capable of lifting 50 or 70 tons. A recovery operation can shut down a highway for hours. The bill for such a service is eye-watering. A simple tow for a semi-truck can cost $1,500 to $3,000. A complex recovery involving a rollover? You're looking at bills ranging from $10,000 to $50,000, depending on the hazardous materials cleanup and the number of wreckers required. In the simulator, recovery is a magic spell cast by the F7 key. You press F7, then enter. A prompt asks, "Do you want to be towed to the nearest service station?" You click Yes. The screen fades to black. Time advances by a few hours. And, suddenly, poof, you're parked safely in the repair bay of a service centre in the next town over. The cost for this miraculous teleportation? Usually a few $100s, maybe $1,000 if you were far away. It is a mechanic that completely neuters the fear of getting stuck. You can high centre your trailer on a rock, wedge yourself under a low bridge, or flip entirely onto your roof. The F7 key is your get-out-of-jail-free card. Once you're at the service station, you encounter the repair mechanic. In real life, a smashed hood, a punctured radiator, and a bent steer axle would mean weeks in the shop. Parts would need to be ordered. The insurance adjuster would need to come out and take photos. You would be in a motel room losing money every day the wheels aren't turning. The concept of downtime is the trucker's nemesis. In the game, the repair is instantaneous. You open the menu, you see the damage report. Engine 12%, transmission 4%, chassis 8%. You click Repair All. A sound of pneumatic wrenches, zzzt, zzzt, plays for 2 seconds. Your bank account drops by perhaps $8,000, and that's it. The truck is visually restored to showroom condition. The dents pop out. The scratches vanish. The shattered headlight reassembles itself. You can drive out immediately. The lack of time cost for repairs is one of the biggest deviations from reality. You don't lose the load. You don't miss the delivery window unless you were already cutting it very close. You just pay the toll and move on. This system encourages a certain recklessness. Since the penalty for crashing is merely financial, and we have already established that money is abundant, there is no true deterrent to driving like a maniac. You can take a corner at 60 mepard knowing that the worst-case scenario is a quick teleport and a repair bill that your last job covered 3 times over. It turns the highway into a playground rather than a workplace. There is a fascinating historical parallel to the safety infrastructure you're bouncing off of. Take the runaway truck ramp. You have likely seen them in the game, steep, gravel-filled lanes shooting off the side of the highway on long downhills like the descent into Grapevine, California, or along I-70 in Colorado. In the real world, these are terrifying last resorts. The first runaway truck ramp was designed and installed in 1965 on a steep grade in California. They function by using deep gravel or sand to create immense rolling resistance, bogging the truck down and bringing it to a violent but safe halt. In reality, using a runaway ramp is a career-defining event. The truck is often buried up to its axles. Towing it out requires specialised equipment and often damages the vehicle further. In the game, however, curiosity often gets the better of us. We wonder, what happens if I drive up there? So we do. We hit the gravel. The truck stops. We look around. And then we just throw it in reverse, engage the differential lock and crawl back out. Or we use the F7 key. The terror of brake failure is reduced to a fun physics experiment. Let's look at the insurance model itself. In the game, you carry a sort of blanket coinsurance. If you hit an AI car, you hear a siren sound and a message appears. Traffic offence, crash vehicle. A fine is deducted instantly, usually $400 or so. This is laughably lenient. In the real world, hitting a car with a semi-truck triggers a labyrinthine legal and insurance process. There are liability limits, deductibles, police reports, and the potential for lawsuits that can bankrupt an owner-operator. A preventable accident stays on your CSA. Compliance, safety, accountability score for years, making it harder to get hired or find insurance. In the simulator, the police are just code. They don't write reports. They don't judge you. They just issue a flat fee, like a toll for bad driving. You can sideswipe a minivan, pay the $400 and keep driving without even slowing down. It reinforces the feeling of invincibility. You are the apex predator of the asphalt, and the smaller vehicles are just obstacles that occasionally charge you a fee for touching them. Even the wear and tear is forgiving. In the game, your tyres degrade linearly based on distance. In reality, tyres are complex. They can develop flat spots from hard braking. They can suffer from alignment issues that chew up the tread on one side. They can blow out, a gator on the highway, which sounds like a shotgun blast and can rip the fender off the truck. The game does not simulate tyre blowouts in the base version, though some mods add it. You never have to worry about that sudden, violent pull to the left. You just watch a percentage bar and click repair when it gets too low. There is a technical curiosity in how the game handles collision detection. The hitbox. Every object in the game world has a physical boundary. Sometimes these boundaries are slightly larger than the visible model. You might think you have cleared a street sign, but the invisible box around your trailer clips the invisible box around the sign. The truck comes to a jarring, unnatural halt, as if you hit a concrete wall. These invisible walls used to be much worse in older versions of the map, blocking off roads that weren't finished. Now they are mostly relegated to the edges of the playable area. Hitting an invisible wall is a unique frustration, a reminder that you're in a coded environment, not a physical one. Despite the frustration, the ease of repair is essential for the chill vibe of the game. If the simulator were truly realistic, one crash would end your playthrough. You would have to declare bankruptcy, sell the truck for scrap and start over. That would be a roguelike trucking game, and it would be incredibly stressful. By making damage trivial, the developers ensure that the flow state is never permanently broken. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to be imperfect. As you pull out of the service station, your truck gleams in the sunlight. The fender you crushed is pristine. The headlight you smashed is shining. The engine hums with the steady rhythm of a factory-fresh machine. You have lost nothing but a bit of digital currency and an hour of in-game time. The shame of the accident fades instantly. You merge back onto the highway, perhaps checking your mirrors a little more carefully this time, but the anxiety is gone. You check the GPS. You are still on schedule. The customer doesn't know you wrapped their cargo around a telephone pole an hour ago. The cargo damage system is separate, and unless you rolled over, the goods inside are likely fine. 0% cargo damage. It is a miracle of logistics. You turn up the radio, settle back into your seat and watch the white lines flash by. The guardrail you hit is miles behind you. Just another piece of scenery in a world that forgives everything. Experience points, or XP, are the invisible currency of the gaming world, usually associated with slaying dragons or solving puzzles. In our trucking universe, however, XP is awarded for the mundane yet satisfying act of parking a trailer straight. As you accumulate these points, you level up, and with each level comes a skill point. This system, known as the skill tree, is the mechanism that transforms you from a rookie hauling dry van trailers full of used pallets into a specialized logistics expert transporting volatile chemicals and radioactive isotopes. This is the gamification of licensure, and it is the key to unlocking the true wealth of the virtual economy. In the real world, obtaining a hazardous materials Hazmat endorsement is a rigorous process. It requires a background check by the Transportation Security Administration (TSA), fingerprinting, a written exam, and a constant awareness of the immense responsibility you carry. You are transporting substances that, if mishandled, could evacuate a town or poison a water table. It is a serious, stress-inducing qualification that comes with a heavy regulatory burden. You have to stop at every railroad crossing. You have to route around certain tunnels and city centres. The paperwork is extensive. In the simulator, getting your Hazmat license is as simple as clicking a colourful icon. You earn a skill point, you open the menu and you click the ADR, European Standard, or Hazmat, American Standard icon. Boom. You're now certified to haul dynamite. No background check, no fingerprints, no studying the emergency response guidebook. The game simply trusts you with the dangerous stuff because you've driven enough miles without completely destroying your truck. This gamification has a direct and explosive impact on your bank account. Hazardous cargo pays a premium. We call this the hazardous cargo bonus. In reality, Hazmat loads do pay more, often 10 to 20 cents more per mile than general freight, because fewer drivers have the endorsement and the risk is higher. But in the game, the multiplier feels much more significant, especially when combined with other bonuses like long distance and fragile cargo. Let's break down the skill tree. You have 6 main categories: ADR, Hazmat, long distance, high value cargo, fragile cargo, just-in-time delivery, and eco-driving. The savvy player knows that the long-distance skill is the priority. Unlocking the ability to drive across the entire map opens up the most lucrative jobs simply by virtue of mileage. But once you have that, the Hazmat skills are the money printers. There are different classes of Hazmat you can unlock. Class 1 is explosives, Class 2 is gases, Class 3 is flammable liquids like gasoline, Class 4 is flammable solids, and so on, up to Class 8, corrosives, and Class 9, miscellaneous. Unlocking Class 1 means you can haul fireworks or dynamite. Unlocking Class 3 means you can haul fuel tankers. These jobs appear in the freight market with a distinct icon, warning you of the danger. But unlike reality, the danger is purely theoretical. If you crash a fuel tanker in the game, it does not explode in a fireball that consumes the highway. You don't have to worry about a Hazmat spill cleanup crew. You just get the standard crash vehicle fine and maybe some cargo damage. The risk is sanitized, but the reward remains. This disconnect between the implied danger and the actual gameplay mechanics creates a lucrative loophole. You're paid as if you're taking a massive risk, but you're playing in a sandbox where the sand cannot hurt you. You pick up a load of potassium cyanide. The name sounds terrifying. In reality, a leak would be a catastrophe. In the game, it's just another trailer. It behaves exactly like a trailer full of yogurt. It weighs the same. It turns the same. The only difference is the payout at the end is 20% higher. The progression of skills also introduces you to new trailer types. Early on, you are stuck with the standard dry van, the rectangular box on wheels. But as you put points into fragile and high value, you start seeing more interesting cargo. You might haul a helicopter on a flatbed. You might haul yachts. You might haul electronics in a high-security container. These visual variations keep the game fresh, but they also serve as status symbols. When you pull into a truck stop hauling a pristine white yacht, you look successful. You look like a driver who has made it. There is a technical nuance to the just-in-time skill. This category controls the delivery windows. Level 1 allows important deliveries with slightly tighter deadlines. Level 2 allows urgent deliveries. These jobs pay significantly more, but they require you to keep the wheels turning. This is where the game's fatigue simulation interacts with the economy. You have to manage your rest breaks carefully. If you take a job that requires you to drive 1,000 miles in 18 hours, you can't afford a 10-hour sleep break. You might have to push the limits, watching the next rest stop it counter tick down to 0, this screen beginning to darken as your driver dozes off. In the real world, hours of service, HOS, regulations are strict. A driver can drive a maximum of 11 hours in a 14-hour window, followed by a mandatory 10-hour break. The electronic logging device, ELD, tracks this automatically. Violating it is a major offence. In the game, the dozing effect, where the screen goes black for a second and you lose control, is the only penalty. It's annoying but manageable. And if you turn off fatigue simulation in the options, then you are a machine. You can drive for 48 hours straight, delivering urgent cargo across the continent without a wink of sleep, maximising your profit per real-world hour. The most satisfying moment of the skill progression is when you realise you have become a jack of all trades. You have filled out the skill tree. You can haul anything, anywhere, anytime. You're no longer filtering the job list to find something you're qualified for. You're filtering it to find the most expensive load available. You sort by price per distance. The top of the list is always a cocktail of skill bonuses. Articulated hauler, a Volvo construction vehicle, going from Seattle to Miami. It's high value, it's heavy cargo, it requires long distance. The payout is ridiculous. This brings us to the concept of route mastery. As you drive these long, high-paying routes, you start to memorize the map. You learn which on-ramps in Los Angeles are tricky. You learn where the speed traps are on I-40 in Arizona. You learn that the GPS sometimes lies to you, trying to route you through a slow city centre when the bypass is faster. This knowledge, combined with your high-level skills, makes you incredibly efficient. You're earning money faster than you can spend it. The gamification also includes the discovery mechanic. Every time you drive on a road you haven't travelled before, it turns from grey to yellow on your map. Map explored, 45.2%. This percentage is a badge of honour for completionists. But it also has an economic benefit. The more cities you discover, the more job offers you see. A driver who has only visited California will never see the lucrative cross-country runs to the East Coast, if using map mods, or the Midwest. Expanding your geographical knowledge expands your market reach. Consider the heavy cargo pack and special transport DLCs. These are effectively paid expansions to the economy. They add cargoes that are physically larger and heavier, massive transformers, giant tyres, house-sized industrial components. Hauling these requires more than just a license. It requires a truck with the torque to move them. This gives you a reason to spend that money you've been hoarding. You go back to the dealership and buy a specialised heavy hauler, maybe a truck with an 8 Casas 4 chassis, 4 axles, 8 wheels, for better weight distribution. You upgrade the engine to the max. You put on the heavy-duty transmission. These heavy jobs are a different beast. The trailer steers itself sometimes, steerable axles. The weight makes the truck sluggish. You have to take turns wide. But the payout reflects the difficulty. It is the pinnacle of the active income in the game. You're doing the hardest work for the most money. Yet, even with these specialised tasks, the core truth remains. The barrier to entry is low. In reality, a heavy haul driver has years of experience. They are the elite of the industry. They know how to secure a load with chains and binders so it doesn't shift. They know how to balance axle weights to be legal at the scale house. In the game, the load is automatically secured. The weight is automatically legal, mostly. You just hook and go. The experience points you earned were just a time gate, not a measure of actual competence. So, you find yourself at level 30. Your title in the game is Legend. You have the Hazmat icons lined up on your profile like merit badges. You have the skills to haul a tank of acid or a priceless yacht. The money is pouring in, but there is a limit to how much one driver can earn. You have only 2 hands and 1 truck. To truly break the economy, to reach the level of wealth where the numbers become meaningless, you need to stop thinking like a driver and start thinking like a CEO. You need to leverage the work of others. You need to build an empire of concrete and code. The transition from a solitary driver to a fleet commander begins with a realization. You cannot drive every truck yourself. You have accumulated wealth, your skills are maxed out, and the bank account is growing, but it is growing linearly. To achieve exponential growth, to truly dominate the virtual economy, you must become a landlord. You must enter the real estate market of the simulation, which, much like the job market, is stripped of all its real-world misery and red tape. You open the map and look for the little greenhouse icons. These represent purchasable garages. In the beginning, you likely operated out of a single small garage in your starting city. A modest 3-bay facility that felt cozy when it was just you. But now you need scale. You zoom out, scanning the continent for strategic locations. You aren't looking for school districts or walkability scores. You're looking for proximity to industrial hubs and highway intersections. Let's say you decide to expand into Las Vegas. In the real world, acquiring industrial property in Las Vegas is a labyrinthine process involving zoning laws, environmental impact reports, and bidding wars against massive logistics conglomerates. The price for a plot of land large enough to park 5 tractor trailers and install a fuel island would be in the millions, assuming you could even find the inventory. Commercial real estate is a cutthroat sector where margins are tight and location is everything. In the simulator, you simply drive up to the floating green icon, or If you have unlocked the Buy Online feature, you just click it from the menu and pay a fixed fee. Usually $180,000 for a small garage. There are no property taxes, there are no utility bills, there is no maintenance cost for the building itself, the roof never leaks, the pavement never cracks, and the graffiti artists of the virtual world respect your property boundaries implicitly. It is the most secure real estate investment in history. Once you own the garage, the next step is the upgrade. You can transform a small 3-bay depot into a large 5-bay headquarters with a single click and another $100,000. The construction is instantaneous. A cutscene plays, a time-lapse of scaffolding rising and falling, and suddenly you're standing in a cavernous concrete cathedral of commerce. The large garage is a distinct environment. It has skylights that let in the dynamic weather outside. It has tool chests, stacks of tyres, and a general ambience of productivity, even if no one is actually working there. This expansion touches on a critical issue in the actual trucking industry, the shortage of truck parking. In 2012, the United States Congress passed Jason's Law as part of a larger transportation bill. It was named after Jason Rivenberg, a truck driver who was tragically killed in 2009 after he was forced to park in an abandoned gas station because he couldn't find a safe, designated parking spot. The law mandated a survey of truck parking shortages, highlighting a national crisis. Real-world drivers often spend an hour or more of their driving day just hunting for a safe place to sleep, and often end up parked on dangerous highway on-ramps. In your virtual world, however, you have solved the parking crisis with your wallet. You own a private terminal in every major city. You have a guaranteed, safe, well-lit parking spot waiting for you in Seattle, in Miami, in Denver. It is a luxury that real drivers would kill for. When you pull your truck into your own garage, the game treats it as a sanctuary. The fatigue meter resets. The repair trigger is right there. It is a home away from home. The large garage comes with a significant technical advantage, the private fuel pump. In the yard of your upgraded garage, there is a diesel pump. Fueling here offers a discount compared to the public truck stops, usually around 15% to 20% cheaper. This is the game simulating wholesale fuel purchasing. Large carriers in the real world negotiate bulk fuel contracts or use fuel cards to get rebates. By installing your own pump, you're effectively becoming your own supplier. It's another layer of economic insulation. Why pay retail when you can fill up at home? But the garage is more than just a parking lot. It is a teleportation node. This is the fast travel mechanic. In the early game, the world feels massive because you have to drive every mile. Once you own a chain of garages, the world shrinks. You can instantly travel from your garage in Los Angeles to your garage in New York. The game simulates the passage of time. Days will skip forward, but for you, the player, it is instant. This allows you to chase the high-paying jobs or specific events without the deadhead driving in between. You become a quantum trucker, existing wherever the market is hottest. There is a distinct human element to the Garage Manager screen. It taps into a collector's mindset. You start to want a garage in every state. You want to paint the map. You look at the garage's owned stat in your profile and feel a compulsion to make it 100%. It's not about need anymore. You don't need a garage in a small town in rural New Mexico, but you buy it anyway because it completes the set. It's the same psychological hook as collecting properties in Monopoly, except no one can land on your space and charge you rent. The aesthetic of the garage interior is worth noting. When you are inside, the camera allows you to walk around in a limited fashion, or pan across your fleet. If you have assigned trucks to the slots, you see them parked there. Seeing 5 identical trucks all painted in your company colours, let's say a metallic gold and black scheme, lined up perfectly is a moment of profound satisfaction. It feeds the ego. You look at them and think, I built this. Never mind that the drivers are AI scripts and the trucks were bought with loans you barely notice paying off. The visual evidence of your success is undeniable. However, the garage system also highlights the loneliness of the single-player experience. You can buy a garage in Chicago, upgrade it to the max, fill it with 5 trucks, and hire 5 drivers. But when you fast travel there, the garage is usually empty. The AI drivers are out on the road. You rarely see your hired hands physically driving their trucks. You don't see them in the break room drinking coffee. You're the owner of a ghost company. The trucks are generating money in the background, represented by notifications and log entries. but the physical space of the garage remains a solitary echo chamber. Strategically, seasoned players know that garage location matters for profitability, even if the game doesn't explicitly tell you. A garage in the center of the map, like Kansas City or Salt Lake City, offers better radial access to jobs for your AI drivers. A garage in a corner, like Seattle or Bangor, Maine, limits the directionality of the generated jobs. The AI tries to find a job from the home base, then a job back. If the base is in a corner, their options are fewer, so you become a logistician, placing your hubs in the hearts of industry. Let's look at the financial return on these concrete investments. A fully upgraded garage with 5 trucks costs roughly $1.5 million as building plus trucks. That sounds like a lot, but once fully staffed with high-level drivers, that garage can generate $50,000 to $100,000 per in-game day in passive income. The return on investment, ROI, is staggering. In the real world, a trucking terminal might take a decade to pay for itself. In the game, a garage pays for itself in 2 weeks of game time. It is a money-printing machine disguised as a warehouse. This ease of expansion mimics the deregulation boom of the 1980s, but without the subsequent crash. Following the Motor Carrier Act of 1980, thousands of new carriers entered the market, buying trucks and setting up shop. Many failed because they couldn't manage the cash flow or the maintenance costs. In the simulator, you are the survivor of a boom that never busts. You can keep buying garages until you own one in every single city on the map. There is no penalty for overexpansion. You don't have to worry about staffing shortages or a lack of freight in a specific region. The economy simply scales up to meet your ambition. As you stand in your newly acquired garage in Las Vegas, listening to the ambient city noise filtering in from outside, you check the garage management tab. You have 5 empty slots, 5 empty driver seats waiting to be filled. The building is secure, the fuel pump is ready, the real estate portion of your empire is secure. Now you need bodies, you need a workforce to pilot these machines and turn your passive investment into active cash flow. You need to enter the labour market, which, surprisingly, is even more accommodating than the real estate market. The garage door rolls, up with a mechanical hum revealing the bright desert sun. You climb back into your personal rig ready to head to the recruitment agency. You have built the castle, now you need the knights. And unlike the real world, where finding qualified, safe and reliable drivers is the single hardest challenge a trucking company faces, you're about to find that in this digital utopia, the perfect employee is just a click away. The recruitment agency is a quiet place. There are no lines of applicants snaking out the door, no anxious murmurs of people practicing their interview answers, and certainly no stacks of resumes detailing dubious employment gaps. In the simulation, the labour market is represented by a clean, grid-based interface populated with eager, smiling faces. You click on the recruitment agency icon, perhaps you discovered this particular branch in Las Vegas or Seattle, and you are presented with a catalogue of human capital. In the real world, the trucking industry is defined by a chronic and severe driver shortage. According to the American Trucking Association's ATA, the industry has been short roughly 80,000 drivers in recent years, a number projected to swell to over 160,000 by 2030. Carriers spend millions on advertising, offering sign-on bonuses that range from $5,000 to $15,000 just to get a warm body in the seat. Retention is even worse. The turnover rate for large truckload carriers often hovers around 90%, meaning for every 10 drivers a company hires, 9 will leave within a year. It is a constant grinding battle to keep trucks moving. In your virtual empire, however, the workforce is infinite, loyal, and incredibly easy to acquire. You scroll through the list. There is Driver A, a man with a friendly beard and a rating of 1.7. His fee is a modest $350 per delivery plus $10 per mile. Next to him is Driver B, a woman with glasses and a focused expression, rating 2.5, asking for slightly more. There are no interviews. You don't ask them about their driving record or if they have a history of failing drug tests. You simply click Hire. The driver is instantly added to your roster. You assign them to your newly purchased garage in Las Vegas, give them keys to one of the fleet trucks you bought in bulk, and that's it. They are now your employee. This process is so frictionless it borders on the comical. You can hire 20 drivers in the span of 5 minutes. In reality, onboarding 20 drivers would take a dedicated HR team weeks of background checks, road tests, and orientation sessions. Here, the driver is ready to work immediately. They don't need time to say goodbye to their families. They don't need to pack a bag. They simply spawn into the truck and begin searching for freight. Once hired, these AI drivers become the invisible engine of your economy. You don't see them physically navigating the roundabouts or struggling to back into a dock. They exist as mathematical probabilities running in the background. Every few minutes, as you're driving your own truck down the highway, a small notification will pop up in the corner of your screen. Driver A has completed a delivery. Income, $4,502. It is a passive income stream that requires zero maintenance. You don't have to dispatch them. The game's logic automatically finds the most profitable load available from their current location, sends them there, and calculates the return. There is a management layer here, though it is blissfully simple. You can set a training policy for each driver. By default, it is set to balanced, meaning the driver will slowly level up all their skills, but the savvy CEO knows better. You go into the driver manager screen and change the policy to long distance. Why? Because just like you, AI drivers earn more when they drive further. Once they max out that skill, you switch them to Hazmat or high value. It is a set-it-and-forget-it form of mentorship. You're molding a fleet of super truckers without ever speaking a word to them. The behavior of these AI employees is the stuff of managerial dreams. They never call in sick. They never complain about the route. They never refuse a load because they don't want to go to New York City. They never get into arguments with shipping clerks. They simply drive. Occasionally, you might get a notification that they couldn't find a job and had to return empty, costing you a bit of fuel money. This is the only friction in the system, usually solved by buying them a better truck or upgrading their skills so they qualify for more cargo types. Let's look at the financial impact of this ghost fleet. At first, a low-level driver might barely break even. They might bring in $500 profit after fuel and wages. But as they level up, and they level up purely by existing and working, their efficiency skyrockets. A high-level AI driver in a good truck can easily net $5,000 to $10,000 per in-game day. Now multiply that by the 5 drivers in your Las Vegas garage. That's $50,000 a day. Now multiply that by the 10 garages you plan to own. You're suddenly making $500,000 a day while you're out for a Sunday drive. This scaling effect creates a profound disconnect from the value of money. In the early game, a $2,000 speeding ticket hurt. It was a significant portion of your funds. Now, with your army of invisible drivers working 24/7, a $2,000 fine is earned back in literally seconds. You could flip your truck, total it, buy a new one, and fully upgrade it, and your bank balance would recover before you reach the next state line. The virtual economy shifts from a survival game to a scorecard. The numbers just go up. There is a technical curiosity in how the game handles the AI drivers' trucks. You, the player, put miles on your truck physically. You see the odometer spin. The AI drivers also put miles on their trucks, but the wear and tear calculation is simplified. They don't suffer from the same random wear events you might. Their maintenance costs are deducted automatically as a percentage of their earnings. You never have to tell them to go to a service station. The game handles the fleet maintenance as a line item on a spreadsheet, removing the gritty reality of managing a fleet's physical health. In the real world, fleet management is a nightmare of logistics. Trucks break down in the middle of nowhere. Drivers quit and leave trucks abandoned at truck stops. Tires blow out. Customers refuse to pay detention time. A fleet manager is a firefighter, constantly putting out crises. In the simulator, you are a silent god, watching the numbers tick up. The only time you even think about your drivers is when you check the driver manager screen to see who has reached the legend rank, or to upgrade their trucks because you have too much money and feel generous. Speaking of generosity, you can assign any truck to any driver. You could give a rookie driver a 700 horsepower Volvo with a custom paint job and chrome wheels. In reality, a rookie gets the oldest, most beat-up truck in the fleet until they prove themselves. In the game, giving a rookie a high-powered truck actually helps them complete jobs faster, increasing your profit. There is no risk that they will wrap your $200,000 custom rig around a pole, because again, they don't actually exist in the physics engine. They are just variables in an equation. Occasionally, while driving, you might see a truck on the road with your company name and logo on it. This is a relatively recent addition to the immersion of the game. For years, your hired drivers were invisible. Now the game spawns trucks that match your fleet configurations to populate the world. You might pass a Scania with your specific blue and gold livery. You honk your horn. The AI driver does not respond. They keep their lane robotically perfect. It's a fleeting moment of connection. Hey, I pay that guy. But it emphasizes the solitude. They are not your friends. They are projections of your success. The passive income mechanic is the ultimate goal of the simulation's economy. It represents the transition from owner-operator to carrier. In the US, the vast majority of trucking companies are small, 97% operate fewer than 20 trucks. But the dream is often to become the next Knight-Swift or JB Hunt, massive entities with thousands of trucks. The game allows you to live out this corporate fantasy without the corporate headache. You don't have to deal with quarterly earnings calls or shareholder pressure. You just buy another garage, hire 5 more people named Pavel or Sarah, and watch the money pile grow. There is a humorous aspect to the driver portraits. They are generic, often reusing assets. You might have 3 drivers who look suspiciously like the same person with different haircuts. Some players create elaborate backstories for their favourite drivers. Oh, that's old man Jenkins. He's been with me since the Bakersfield garage. He loves hauling lumber. It's a way for us to inject humanity into a system that is purely algorithmic. We want to believe that the little notification saying Jenkins earned $8,400 represents a hard day's work, rather than a random number generator rolling a high value. This invisible workforce also serves as a safety net. If you, the player, decide to take a break from the grind. Maybe you want to explore a new map expansion without taking a job, just bobtailing around to see the sights. Your income doesn't stop. In fact, because time in the game moves faster when you are driving, simulation time versus real time, your drivers are earning money rapidly while you're sightseeing. You're effectively subsidized by your own employees. You can become a tourist in your own game, financed by the labor of the digital proletariat you hired. As you close the recruitment window, having filled the last slot in your Las Vegas garage, you feel a sense of completion. The garage is full, the trucks are moving, theoretically. The income stream is secured. You check your bank balance. It has already recovered the hiring fees. You're now free to focus on the next great challenge, the one that requires your personal touch because the AI, for all its efficiency, cannot handle the sheer size of it. You're ready to tackle the oversized loads, the special transport missions where the cargo is wider than the lane and the stakes, at least visually, feel higher than ever. The sun has set outside your cab and the dashboard lights cast a warm glow. You receive another notification. Driver C has leveled up. Good for you, Driver C. Keep up the good work. I'll be over here preparing to haul a house down the interstate. While your army of AI drivers quietly conquers the standard freight market, generating wealth in the background like a low-humming server farm, you, the owner-operator, eventually crave a challenge that breaks the monotony of highway cruising. You seek the special transport. These are not merely heavy loads, these are logistical events. We are talking about hauling a massive industrial heat exchanger, a high-tech catamaran, or a haul truck chassis that is wider than the lane you're driving in. This is the domain of the oversized load, where the economy of the game offers its most prestigious, if not strictly most efficient paycheck. You find these jobs marked with a distinctive red and white striped ribbon in the menu. They are the VIP section of the freight market. You accept a contract, transporting a giant silo from a manufacturing plant in Houston to a construction site in Corpus Christi. The moment you click Take Job, the atmosphere changes. You're not just spawned into the driver's seat, you're treated to a cinematic establishing shot. You see your truck hooked up to a multi-axle lowboy trailer, the silo looming over the cab like a metallic skyscraper. Flashing amber lights are everywhere. Parked in front of you and behind you are the escort vehicles, the pilot cars. In the real world, heavy haul is the PhD program of trucking. It is where the masters of the craft operate. A standard 53-foot trailer tracks behind the truck in a predictable arc. A specialized modular trailer with steerable rear axles is a different beast entirely. It requires a driver who understands the geometry of multiple pivot points. The Special Transport DLC captures this feeling of weight and consequence remarkably well. As you start the engine, a message appears on the screen. Follow the escort vehicle. This is the defining mechanic of these missions. You are no longer the master of your speed. You are part of a convoy. The front escort vehicle, usually a pickup truck or a van with a wide load sign and a light bar, dictates the pace. You cannot pass them. You cannot lag too far behind. If you break the formation, the mission fails. It is a forced slow-motion ballet. The speed limit is often capped at 40 miles per hour, even on the interstate. This forced reduction in speed changes the rhythm of the game. The scenery doesn't blur past, it crawls. You have time to look at the AI traffic piling up behind you. The car's unable to pass because your rear escort vehicle is blocking the lane. There's a delicious sense of power in this. In normal gameplay, you're often bullied by aggressive AI cars merging at the last second. In a special transport mission, the AI police and escort vehicles part the Red Sea for you. You see a police cruiser block an intersection ahead, holding back a line of impatient commuters so you can swing your massive load through a red light. You occupy the centre of the road, straddling the white line, taking up 2 lanes, because you have to. It is the only time the game legally sanctions and encourages you to be a road hog. Let's look at the equipment. You might be pulling a Goldhofer trailer. Goldhofer is a German manufacturer renowned for heavy-duty transport solutions. Their modular systems allow for payloads of hundreds of tons. In the game, the trailer might have 10 axles, with the rear wheels steering independently to help the trailer follow the truck's path around corners. This rear steer effect is visually mesmerizing. You watch in your mirrors as the trailer tires turn, swinging the tail of the load away from the guardrail you were sure you were going to hit. It feels like magic, but it is engineering. The payout for these missions is substantial, often paying significantly more per mile than even the best Hazmat loads. But the real reward is the prestige factor. Completing these deliveries feels like an accomplishment. However, if we look at the economics closely, they aren't actually the most efficient way to make money per hour. Because you are limited to 40 mph, a 200-mile journey takes twice as long as a standard delivery. You could probably run 2 fast just-in-time medical supply loads in the time it takes to baby a giant tyre down the highway. But we don't do it for the efficiency, we do it for the spectacle. In the real world, the economics of heavy haul are defined by permits. This is the nightmare the game completely skips. To move an oversized load across state lines, a trucking company must obtain a permit from each state. Each state has different rules about when you can drive, often daylight hours only, what routes you can take, and how many pilot cars you need. A route from Ohio to Texas requires a stack of paperwork inches thick. You have to plan around low bridges, weight-restricted bridges, and construction zones. A bridge strike, hitting an overpass with a tall load, is a catastrophic career-ending event that costs millions in infrastructure damage. In the simulator, the route is pre-calculated and sanitized. The game will not send you under a bridge that is too low, usually. The permit is automatic. You don't have to call the Department of Transportation in Louisiana to ask if you can cross the Mississippi River Bridge on a Tuesday. The bureaucratic friction is removed, leaving only the driving challenge, and even the challenge is mitigated. If you approach a difficult turn, the game often removes the traffic entirely, or has the police block it off so you have the entire intersection to maneuver. Let's talk about the human element of the escort drivers. In reality, the relationship between the truck driver and the pilot car drivers is critical. They are in constant communication via CB radio. Driver, you've got a bridge coming up, move to the centre. Driver, you're clear on the right. It is a team sport. In the game, the interaction is limited to text prompts and the behaviour of the AI vehicle. Sometimes the AI escort is a bit erratic. It might brake check you for no reason, it might switch lanes suddenly. You find yourself muttering at the virtual pilot car, "What are you doing, buddy? I've got 70 tons of concrete behind me, I can't stop on a dime." This brings up the physics of stopping. The heavy cargo physics are distinct. When you hit the brakes with an 80-ton load, you feel the momentum pushing you. The truck dips, the air brakes hiss, but the speedometer drops agonizingly slowly. You have to look much further ahead. If the escort car's brake lights come on, you need to be reacting now. Going downhill is terrifying. You rely on the Jake brake, the Jacob's engine brake. This mechanism opens the exhaust valves at the top of the compression stroke, turning the engine into a massive air compressor that absorbs energy. The iconic brr-ah sound of the Jake brake is the soundtrack of heavy haul. In the game, you toggle it to the higher setting and listen to the engine scream as it fights gravity. There is a specific tension when navigating the narrow sections. The game loves to route these special transports through small towns or 2-lane country roads to spike the difficulty. You're squeezing a 20-foot wide load through a gap that feels like 22 feet. You watch the telephone poles whiz by your mirrors, inches away. You watch the oncoming traffic, hoping the AI cars pull over far enough. They usually do, sometimes driving hilariously off into the grass to avoid you. One of the most impressive cargoes in American Truck Simulator is the Turnpike House. You're literally moving a section of a house. It blocks your rearview mirrors entirely. You have to rely on your hood mirrors and your instincts. It captures the absurdity of American logistics, the idea that we can just pick up a building and move it somewhere else because we want to. Despite the grandeur, there is a funny limitation to the game's economy here: the lack of failure costs. If you clip a sign with your giant silo, the mission fails instantly. You're reset to the last checkpoint. You don't have to pay for the damaged silo. You don't have to pay for the guardrail. You don't have to pay for the lawsuit from the city. You just try again. It reinforces the theme park nature of the simulation. It offers the thrill of the high-stakes haul without the financial ruin that would accompany a real-world mistake. The special transport missions also highlight the visual scale of the map. When you're driving slowly, you notice the details more. You notice the textures of the road, the way the trees sway, the distant mountains. The 1/20 scale of the world, where 20 minutes of game time equals 1 minute of real time and distances are compressed, feels different at 35 Fantasm. The world feels bigger. The journey feels more epic. You're not just rushing to a destination, you are a parade of one. As you near the drop-off point, perhaps a specialized construction site where a crane is waiting, the final maneuver is usually a scripted parking event. You don't have to back these monstrosities into a dock, thankfully, as backing a double-articulated trailer is a nightmare. You just pull into the designated zone, the escort cars peel off, the excellent screen appears, the payout is massive, $150,000 for a single trip. You sit there for a moment, listening to the truck idle, the heavy load gone. The suspension seems to sigh in relief. You have successfully navigated the most dangerous, simulated job on the road. You have proven you can handle the big stuff. But as the money hits your account, adding to the pile that is already too big to spend, you realize that even this, the pinnacle of trucking, is ultimately a safe, cushioned experience. In the real world, heavy haulers are exhausted after a run. Their nerves are fried. They have spent hours in a state of hypervigilance. In the game, you're just ready for the next one. Maybe the high-tech device from San Francisco to Phoenix? Why not? The permit is already approved, the roads are clear, and the bank is always open. The trailer is empty now, the massive heat exchanger or silo delivered to its destination, and you are bobtailing back onto the highway under the cover of darkness. The rain has started to fall, slicking the asphalt and turning the headlights of oncoming traffic into long streaking ribbons of light. It is in these quiet, unburdened moments, when the engine is just murmuring and the wipers are keeping a steady rhythm, that one can't help but reflect on the peculiar economic bubble we inhabit. We are driving in a world that is historically impossible. We are living in a paradox where the freedom of the modern owner-operator coexists with the protected profit margins of a bygone era. We are haunted in the most benevolent way possible by the ghost of the Motor Carrier Act. To understand why your virtual bank account is currently overflowing, we have to look back at the real world's history, specifically the year 1980. Before this watershed moment, the American trucking industry was ruled by the Interstate Commerce Commission, the ICC. Established in 1887 to regulate railroads, the ICC took control of trucking with the Motor Carrier Act of 1935. For decades, this federal body was the supreme lord of the road. They decided who could haul what, where they could haul it, and how much they could charge. Imagine a world where you couldn't just click on a job from Seattle to Miami because you felt like it. Under the ICC, a trucking company had to prove that a route was necessary, and that existing carriers weren't already serving it. It was a closed system, a club. If you had the authority, the government granted permission, to haul tyres from Akron to St. Louis, that was your lane. No one else could touch it. This stifled competition but guaranteed profits. It was a golden age for the companies that held the keys, and for the unionized drivers who earned high wages because the rates were artificially fixed by the government. In our simulator, we are experiencing a fantasy hybrid of these two eras. We have the absolute freedom to drive anywhere, a right won by the deregulation of 1980, but we also enjoy the high, stable, non-competitive rates of the regulated era. In the real post-1980 world, when the Motor Carrier Act passed and signed by President Jimmy Carter, the floodgates opened. Thousands of new carriers entered the market. The number of licensed carriers doubled within a few years. Competition exploded, rates plummeted, the trucking wars began, and the profit margins were shaved down to the bone. But look at your freight market screen. There is no competition. You're not bidding against other companies. You're not lowering your rate per mile to undercut Swift or Schneider. The rates are fixed, high, and waiting for you. The game has given you the freedom of the modern era without the cutthroat economics that came with it. You're enjoying the best of both worlds. The liberty of the 1980s cowboy with a paycheck of the 1950s teamster. As you drive through the rain, passing a way station sign that you thankfully get to bypass this time, consider the technical markings on the side of your truck. If you look closely at the door of your virtual Kenworth or Scania, you might see some text, a US dot number, maybe an MC, motor carrier number. In the game, these are often just texture details, sometimes your Steam ID or a random string of digits. In reality, these numbers are the scars of battle. A dot number tracks your safety rating. An MC number is your operating authority. In the days of the ICC, that authority was a tangible asset. People didn't just buy trucks, they bought the right to drive. An authority to haul specific goods could be sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was a property right. When deregulation hit, the value of those authorities went to zero overnight. Billions of dollars in paper wealth evaporated. It was a financial trauma that the industry still talks about in the quiet corners of old truck stops. You, the player, never have to buy an authority. You just buy a truck. The game skips the bureaucratic tragedy entirely. Let's touch on the human element of this transition. If you were to sit down at a counter in a petrol stopping centre in 1982, you would have heard a very different conversation than you hear today. The old guard, the drivers who started in the 50s and 60s, were bitter. They watched their protected routes vanish. They watched scabs and non-union independent drivers. That's you, by the way. Flood the market, willing to haul freight for half the price just to make a truck payment. There is a famous archetype in trucking lore, the wildcatter. These were the guys who ran illegal before deregulation, hauling freight they didn't have authority for, dodging the scales and the ICC enforcement agents. They were the outlaws. After 1980, they became the legitimate businessmen. In the simulator, we're all wildcatters at heart, but the sheriff has gone home. We run whatever we want. We haul explosives one day and milk the next. In the real world, switching commodities like that requires different trailers, different insurance riders, and different customer bases. A company that hauls milk generally doesn't haul dynamite. But you are the ultimate generalist, a super carrier of one, unburdened by market specialization. The rain intensifies, the sound of it hammering against the roof of the cab, a cozy rhythmic thrumming that makes the warmth of the dashboard lights feel even more inviting. You switch the wipers to high. The rhythmic thwack thwack is hypnotic. You are passing a competitor, an AI truck from a fictional company like Woolbert or Bushnell Farms. They are doing exactly the speed limit. They are the backdrop, the NPCs, non-player characters of the economy. In a real economy, if 1,000 new trucks suddenly appeared in a region, the rates for freight leaving that region would crash. It's simple supply and demand. If there are more trucks than loads, the shippers hold all the cards. They offer less money, and desperate drivers take it. This creates head haul and back haul markets. A head haul is the load that gets you there, pays well. A back haul is the load that gets you home, pays poorly, just covers fuel. In the game, the concept of a bad back haul is virtually non-existent. Sure, some loads pay slightly less, but you never have to take a load at a loss just to move the truck. Every mile is profitable. The simulator's economy is a flat plane of infinite demand. The shippers are desperate for you, specifically. This strokes the ego. It makes you feel essential. In reality, the driver is often treated as a commodity, easily replaced by the next guy in line. The game reverses this power dynamic. You are the protagonist, and the economy bends to serve your wallet. This historical disconnect also explains why there are no unions in the game. The Teamsters Union was a dominant force in the regulated era. They negotiated master freight agreements that guaranteed high wages and pensions. Deregulation broke the back of unionized trucking in the long-haul sector. Today, most long-haul drivers are non-union. In the game, labor relations are perfectly harmonious because, well, there is no labor relation. You are the owner, the driver, and the union rep all in one. You never go on strike against yourself. You never have a grievance about unsafe working conditions because you can just turn off traffic offences in the menu. As you crest a hill, the lights of a city appear in the valley below, perhaps Salt Lake City or Albuquerque. A grid of amber sodium vapour lights glowing in the mist. It looks peaceful, it looks prosperous. This visual beauty hides the gritty reality of the race to the bottom that characterises modern logistics. Real trucking is a low-margin, high-volume game. It is about squeezing fractions of a penny out of every mile. It is about monitoring tyre pressure to save 0.5% on fuel. The game, by retaining the high margins of the past, allows us to engage in the romance of the road that the Motor Carrier Act largely extinguished. We can afford to drive a classic long-nose Peterbilt 379 with the aerodynamics of a brick wall because the profit margin is fat enough to absorb the fuel cost. In the real world, that truck is a luxury few can afford to operate in a competitive lane. Most real fleets run anteater trucks, sloped hoods, wheel covers, trailer tails, because they have to. We drive the classics because we want to. We are reenactors, cosplaying the 1970s aesthetic with 2020s graphics and a fantasy economy that keeps the fuel tank full. There is a technical detail in the game's company management screen that subtly nods to this lack of regulation. The absence of brokerage fees. In the real world, unless you have direct customers, you are getting your loads from brokers. A broker connects the shipper, the factory, with the carrier, you. For this service, they take a cut, typically 15% to 20%, but sometimes much more. Drivers often complain that brokers are gouging them. In the game, the freight market is a direct connection. The price you see is the price you get. The broker, that middleman who eats your profit, has been excised from the code. It is a libertarian utopia of direct commerce. The rain begins to let up as you descend toward the city. The wipers squeak against the drying glass, a sound that always prompts you to reach for the switch. You turn them off. The silence returns, save for the hum of the tyres. You're rolling into town with $10,000 worth of profit from that last run, ready to pick up another. In the end, the ghost of the Motor Carrier Act is a friendly spirit in this simulation. It haunts us not with spectral chains, but with the lingering prosperity of a time when trucking was the king of industry. It allows us to play a game where the road is still open, the pay is still good, and the only limit to your success is how long you can keep your eyes open. We are driving in a bubble, shielded from the harsh winds of market forces, and frankly, it is a delightful place to be. The reality of 1980 changed everything for the real truckers, but in here, the golden age never ended. But even in a golden age where the regulatory sun never sets, there is one physical reality that no amount of economic nostalgia can wish away: friction. The connection between your ambition and the asphalt is maintained by 18 patches of rubber, each no larger than a human hand. In the real world, these black circles are the source of constant vigilance, anxiety, and expense. In our virtual trucking utopia, however, tyres are simply another resource bar that slowly depletes with the predictability of a clock, completely divorced from the violent, shredding reality of highway wear. We're exploring tyre wear without the tears, the gentle suggestion of maintenance versus the business-ending nightmare of a blowout. You're cruising down the highway, perhaps admiring the way the rain clears from the windshield, when you decide to check the vehicle diagnostics screen. You tap the designated key, and the display shows a schematic of your truck and trailer. The chassis is green, the engine is green. The tyres, however, are showing a slight yellow tint. Tyre wear, 15%. You shrug. 15% is nothing. You have thousands of miles left before the game even suggests you might want to consider a pit stop. You close the menu and keep the throttle pinned. In the actual trucking industry, a 15% difference in tyre quality is a conversation starter, if not a safety violation. Tyres are the second highest operating cost after fuel. A single new steer tyre, the tyres on the front axle that guide the truck, can cost $600 to $800. A drive tyre can cost $400 to $600. A truck has 10 tyres, or 18 if not using super singles. A trailer has 8. To reshoe an entire tractor-trailer combination is an investment of $5,000 to $8,000. This is capital expenditure that keeps owner-operators awake at night. But it's not just the cost, it's the complexity. In the game, a tyre is a single object with a single health bar. In reality, a tyre is a complex laminate of rubber, steel belts, and fabric cords. They fail in spectacular and terrifying ways. We mentioned the gator earlier, the tread separating from the casing. This happens when heat builds up, usually due to underinflation. A driver has to check tyre pressure religiously. They use a thumper, a wooden bat or a heavy metal bar to strike the tyres during their pre-trip inspection. They listen for the sharp thwack of a properly inflated tyre versus the dull thud of a low one. In the simulator, you never have to thump your tyres. You never have to unscrew a valve stem cap in the freezing rain to check the PSI. The game assumes your tyres are always perfectly inflated. Heat buildup is not simulated. You can drive across the scorching asphalt of Arizona at noon with a full load at 80 miles per hour. Conditions that would cook a real tyre and lead to a blowout, and your digital rubber simply degrades at the standard rate of 1% per X miles. Let's look at the wear pattern. Real tyres tell a story. If the edges are worn, it's underinflation. If the centre is worn, it's overinflation. If there is cupping or scalloped dips in the tread, it means the suspension components, shocks or kingpins, are worn out. Drivers and mechanics read these signs like tea leaves to diagnose the health of the truck. In the game, the wear is uniform. Your front right tyre wears at the exact same rate as your rear left drive tyre, mostly. You miss out on the forensic analysis of your suspension geometry, but you also miss out on the bill for a 3-axle alignment. There is a specific mechanic in the game related to tyre grades. When you're in the upgrade shop, you can buy different tyres. They have ratings for fuel economy, rain grip, and noise. You might spend extra for the A-rated tyres for rain grip. You notice that the truck handles slightly better in a storm. The hydroplaning is less severe, but the lifespan, it feels largely the same. In reality, a high-grip tyre usually has a softer compound that wears out faster. A fuel-efficient, low-rolling resistance tyre has a harder compound that lasts longer, but gives up some traction. The trade-offs are brutal. In the game, the trade-offs are mostly flavour text. You buy the most expensive Michelin or Goodyear DLC tyres because they look good and have the branded lettering on the sidewall. Consider the catastrophe of a steer tyre blowout. If a drive tyre, one of the 8 in the back of the tractor, blows, it's loud and scary, but you can usually limp to the shoulder. If a steer tyre blows, you lose control of the vehicle. The truck pulls violently to the side of the blown tyre. If you're doing 65 blm, you're likely going into the ditch or the median barrier. It is one of the most dangerous events in trucking. Veteran drivers are taught to accelerate initially to stabilise the steering before gently braking, a counterintuitive move that requires nerves of steel. The simulator, without hardcore physics mods, does not simulate this terror. Your tyre health reaches 100% wear, 0% health. What happens? The truck doesn't flip, it doesn't veer into oncoming traffic, it just loses traction, it becomes slippery. Maybe the game prevents you from accelerating efficiently. A notification appears, service required. It is a polite tap on the shoulder rather than a punch to the gut. You are allowed to drive on bald tyres for hundreds of miles to finish your delivery. This forgiveness extends to the recapped or retreaded tyre debate. In the industry, to save money, companies often glue new tread onto old tyre casings. These are called retreads. They are cheaper, half the price of new tyres, but they are less reliable and notorious for peeling apart in hot weather. It is illegal to use retreads on the steer axle of a bus, and while legal for trucks, most owner-operators refuse to put them on the front for safety reasons. In the game, every tyre you buy is treated as a virgin factory-fresh product. You don't have to make the poverty choice of buying a questionable recap just to get home. Then there is the issue of flat spotting. If you lock up your brakes in the real world, say a panic stop because a car cut you off, you shave the rubber off the tyre where it slid against the pavement. This creates a flat spot. From that moment on, every time the wheel turns, thump, thump, thump. The vibration can shake the fillings out of your teeth and destroy your wheel bearings. The only fix is to replace the tyre. In the game, you can lock your brakes up at every intersection, sliding sideways like a rally car, and your tyres remain perfectly round circles. The auditory torture of a flat-spotted tyre is not part of the soundscape. Let's discuss the lift axle mechanic. Many of the trucks in the game, especially in the European configurations or the heavy-haul chassis, have lift axles, wheels that can be raised off the ground when the truck is empty. You see a button for it. Drop axle, lift axle. In reality, this is a tyre-saving measure. By lifting the axle, you reduce the rolling resistance and stop wearing out those tyres when they aren't needed to support the weight. In the game, we press the button mostly because it looks cool or to tighten our turning radius. We rarely calculate the tyre cost per mile savings of lifting the tag axle. And what about the trailer tyres? In the game, you switch trailers constantly. You pick up a job and the trailer is provided. Its tyres are not your problem. If you own your own trailer, a feature added in later updates, you do have to maintain them. But again, the wear is just a syncopated rhythm with the truck. You click repair all at the shop and the trailer is fresh. In reality, trailer tyres are the most abused. They get curbed, dragged and ignored. Trailer tyre maintenance is often an oxymoron in the budget fleets. The tyre wear without the tears philosophy is essential for the pacing of the game. If you had to stop every 300 miles to check your lug nuts, which can loosen up and cause a wheel to fly off, a wheel-off incident that is a massive liability, the flow would be broken. If you had to call a roadside tyre service and wait 4 hours for a truck to come out and change a flat, costing you your delivery window, the game would become a frustration simulator. By smoothing out these rough edges, the game keeps the focus on the motion, not the maintenance. There is a specific satisfaction, however, in the visual aspect of the tyres. The game developers have put immense effort into the rendering of the wheels, the chrome lug nut covers, the painted hubs, the Alcoa Durabright rims. We spend millions of in-game dollars dressing up our wheels. We obsess over whether to use the Absolute Fury rims or the Seagull rims. We care deeply about the fashion of the wheel, while remaining blissfully ignorant of the function of the rubber. As you roll down the highway, listening to the hum of those 18 tyres, you are listening to a lie. Real truck tyres roar. They sing a loud, droning song of friction. Different pavements make them sing different notes. Concrete is a high-pitched whine. Asphalt is a low rumble. The game captures this audio nuance beautifully, but it hides the pain behind the sound. It lets you enjoy the music of the road without worrying that the instrument is about to break. You pass a tyre shop on the side of the road, a small grime-covered building with stacks of old tyres out front. In the real world, that is a place of salvation and financial ruin. In your world, it is just background art. You don't need it. Your tyres are at 87%. You're invincible. The rubber meets the road, but your wallet never truly meets the friction. There comes a point in every long-term save file where the numbers lose their meaning. You have passed the struggle of the early game, if one can call it that. You have passed the expansion phase of buying garages and hiring drivers. You have reached the point of economic invincibility. This is the endgame state, a plateau where money is no longer a resource to be managed, but a high score that simply accumulates. You are the Bezos of the breakdown lane, the Musk of the interstate. You open your menu and look at the top right corner. The balance reads something like $145,000 to $800,000. It is a number so large it requires no context. You could buy every truck in every dealership on the map and still have enough left over to repaint them all gold. You could crash your truck, refuse to repair it, sell it for scrap, buy a new one, and repeat this process 50 times a day without making a dent in your fortune. The concept of profitability has dissolved. You are post-economic. At this stage, your relationship with the job market changes fundamentally. You no longer sort by price per distance. You don't care that a job pays $80 per mile versus $40 per mile. Both amounts are irrelevant drops in your ocean of cash. Instead, you start to sort by other metrics. You sort by cargo weight, because you want to test your new 8.4 chassis on a steep grade. You sort by route length, because you only have exactly 45 minutes to play before bed and need a short hop. Or most commonly, you sort by destination because I haven't been to Montana in a while and the mountains look nice this time of year. The driving becomes purely aesthetic. You are no longer an employee of the logistics industry. You're a tourist with a commercial driver's license. You pick a load of frozen fruit not because it pays well, but because the trailer is purple and it matches your truck's paint scheme. You take a job to a remote quarry because you enjoy the technical challenge of the dirt road entrance, not because the gravel needs to be moved. The simulation has transitioned from a business management game to a zen garden of diesel and polygons. This state of invincibility allows for a profound relaxation. The stress of the crash is completely gone. In the early game, a collision was an annoyance. Now it is just a physics interaction. If an AI car cuts you off and you plow into it, you don't worry about the fine. You don't worry about the damage. You might even find yourself laughing at the absurdity of the AI physics as the sedan goes spinning off into the cornfield. You have become a benevolent, or malevolent god of the road, immune to consequence. You might start experimenting with inefficient trucks. When money is tight, you drive the aerodynamic, fuel-efficient fleet trucks. When you are invincible, you buy the projects. You buy the cab-over engine, COE, truck, maybe a modded Kenworth K100 or a classic Freightliner FLB. These trucks ride rough, have the aerodynamics of a vending machine and are tricky to drive, but they look cool. You spend $200,000 restoring a classic rig just to drive it for one trip and then park it in your museum garage. Ah, the museum garage. This is a common endgame habit. You designate one specific garage, usually your headquarters, as a showroom. You don't assign drivers to it. Instead, you fill the slots with your favourite custom builds, the show truck, the heavy hauler, the daily driver. You fast travel there just to walk around and look at them. You spend hours in the upgrade shop tweaking the position of the air horns, or trying to find the perfect shade of metallic blue. The game becomes Pimp My Ride Big Rig Edition. The financial cost of these modifications, often tens of thousands of dollars for a set of chrome rims, is meaningless. You click Confirm Order without looking at the price. Your fleet of AI drivers has likely reached the cap. You might have 300 drivers working for you. The notifications of their income stream so fast they are just a blur in the ticker tape. Driver X finished a job. Driver Y finished a job. It's a constant background radiation of wealth. You stop managing them entirely. You don't upgrade their trucks anymore. You just let them drive whatever they have. They are self-sustaining. You have built a perpetual motion machine of commerce. This economic freedom also changes how you interact with the map. You start to explore the grey roads, the tiny spurs and hidden paths that don't appear on the GPS as main routes. You find hidden Easter eggs, a donut shop with a giant donut on the roof, a famous movie house, a scenic overlook that isn't a delivery point. You have the time and the fuel money to just wander. You become a bobtail explorer, driving without a trailer just to see what's down that dirt road near the lumber mill. There is a technical ceiling to this, of course. The game engine can only simulate so much. But the developers have cleverly designed the economy to have no hard cap. The numbers just keep rolling. However, this lack of friction can lead to boredom for some. Without the struggle, where is the victory? This is why many players at this stage turn to hard economy mods or self-imposed challenges, which we will discuss next. But for the moment, basking in the invincibility is sweet. It is a fantasy of total control. In the real world, even the wealthiest trucking tycoons have problems. They have lawsuits, regulations, fluctuating fuel prices, and driver strikes. You have none of that. You have a pristine fleet, infinite capital, and a world that exists solely to be driven through. You can park your truck in the middle of the highway to take a screenshot of the sunset blocking traffic for miles, and the only penalty is a honking sound effect. The invincibility phase is also when the community aspect shines. You join VTCs, virtual trucking companies. You drive in convoys with other players in multiplayer, truckers MP or convoy mode. Your wealth allows you to show off. Hey, look at my fully upgraded Scania S7-30 with the V8 interior. You're peacocking. The truck becomes an avatar of your time investment. The money isn't just currency, it's prestige. It shows you have put in the hours. As you glide down the highway in your $1 million rolling palace, the radio playing your favourite real-world station via the internet stream, you realise that the game has tricked you. It lured you in with the promise of a trucking simulation, a job simulator. But it kept you with the promise of ownership and empire. And now that you have the empire, you are left with the simple, primal joy of the motion itself. The bank balance is just a score. The real currency is the vibe, the soft purple glow of the dashboard instrument cluster, the rhythmic sweep of the headlights on the trees, the feeling of the lane assist nudging the wheel. You are rich in pixels and wealthy in peace of mind. You have beaten the capitalism of the game by accumulating so much capital that capitalism no longer applies to you. You pull into a rest stop, not because you need to sleep, you turned fatigue off ages ago, but because you want to watch the sunrise. You park the truck, you turn off the engine. The silence of the desert, or the forest, or the coast washes over the speakers. You look at your stats. Net worth, $152,000. You smile. It's meaningless, and yet it's everything. You have won the virtual economy. You can't go broke. You can only go forward. Human beings are strange creatures. Give them a paradise where money flows like water and failure is impossible, and eventually they will invent ways to make themselves miserable again. This is the paradox of the hard economy mod. After reaching the pinnacle of financial invincibility, a segment of the player base looks at their 9-figure bank account, sighs with boredom, and decides to blow it all up. They install modifications that purposefully crash the virtual economy, turning the generous simulator back into a brutal struggle for survival. The real economy mods are a popular category in the Steam Workshop. These mods rewrite the configuration files that govern income and expenses. They slash the payout rates from the fantasy levels of $50 per mile down to a gritty, realistic $1.80 or $2.20 per mile. They increase the cost of fuel. They increase the penalties for damage. They make the bank loans predatory, with high interest rates and short repayment terms. They turn the benevolent uncle of a banker into a loan shark. Why do players do this? It's the desire for meaningful agency. When you have infinite money, your choices don't matter. Buying a truck is trivial. With a hard economy mod, buying a truck becomes a monumental achievement. You have to save for weeks of real-time driving. You have to calculate every gallon of fuel. You have to drive efficiently, keeping the RPMs low, coasting to stops, because you literally cannot afford to waste diesel. The game shifts from a relaxation tool to an intense management simulation. In this masochistic mode, the quick job phase lasts much longer. You're stuck driving other people's trucks for dozens of hours because you can't afford a down payment. You feel the envy of seeing the AI trucks roll by in their custom rigs, while you're stuck in a fleet spec Vico with a plastic steering wheel. But when you finally do sign the papers for your own truck, likely a used, high-mileage clunker because that's all you can afford, the sense of ownership is profound. It's not just a truck, it's your survival pod. The used truck market feature, recently added to the base game but heavily utilised by hard economy players, becomes essential. You aren't buying shiny new showroom models. You're buying a Freightliner with 400,000 miles on the odometer. The engine is worn, the transmission slips, the paint is faded. You have to budget for repairs. A breakdown isn't just an annoyance, it's a crisis. If your engine blows and you have $2,000 in the bank but the repair is $15,000, you are functionally bankrupt. You might have to sell the truck at a loss and go back to quick jobs. The threat of failure returns, and with it, the thrill. These mods often strip away the passive income safety net as well. They nerf the AI driver income to realistic levels. Instead of making $5,000 a day, an AI driver might make $200 a day, or even lose money if they can't find a return load. You have to manage them actively. You have to fire the ones who aren't performing. You have to upgrade their skills strategically. The Ghost Fleet stops being a money printer and starts being a liability that requires oversight. The fines in hard economy mods are often ramped up. A speeding ticket isn't $400, it's $2,000. Running a red light hurts. A collision is devastating. This forces you to drive like a professional. You watch the speed limit signs like a hawk. You stop fully at stop signs. You check your mirrors constantly. The bedtime relaxation is replaced by a low-level hum of occupational anxiety. For some, this immersion is the ultimate goal. They want to feel the weight of the profession, not just the aesthetic. There is also the 1:1 timescale phenomenon. The default game runs on a compressed timescale, roughly 120. Some players use mods or server settings to run real time. A 4-hour drive takes 4 actual hours. This is the deep end of the simulation pool. It requires a physical stamina that matches the digital one. Combining a hard economy with real-time driving creates an experience that is almost indistinguishable from actual work minus the physical labour of loading and unloading. This pursuit of difficulty highlights a truth about simulation games. We simulate work to escape work, but we want the structure of work without the consequences of life. The hard economy mod provides the structure, the goals, the barriers, the milestones, but it still allows us to pause the game. We can still walk away. We can still hit quit if the debt gets too high. It is a controlled burn of stress. Technically, these mods show the flexibility of the game engine. SCS Software, the developers, built a robust platform where a few text file edits can completely transform the gameplay loop. The community has embraced this. There are grand utopia maps with narrow, difficult roads. There are winter physics mods that make the roads slippery as ice. Every layer of difficulty added is a badge of honor for the player who conquers it. Driving a hard economy profile feels different. You look at the fuel price sign at the truck stop, $4.89 a gallon. You do the math in your head. If I fill up here, it's $200. The load pays $500. My profit is $300 for a 3-hour drive. That's $100 an hour. You realize that real trucking is a volume game. You have to keep moving. You can't afford to sightsee. The bobtail explorer is dead. The hungry owner-operator is born. You might find yourself taking bad loads, heavy, low-paying cargo going to a difficult destination, because it's the only thing available that gets you out of a bad market area. You learn the geography of freight. You learn that taking a load to a remote town in Nevada is a trap because there's nothing coming back out. You have to deadhead back to civilization, burning fuel for free. This strategic layer is completely absent in the vanilla economy. Yet, even in the depths of this self-imposed poverty, there is a romance. The struggle save feels more personal. When you finally upgrade your engine from 370 HP to 450 HP, you feel the difference. You earned that torque. Every horsepower was bought with hours of disciplined driving. The truck evolves with you. It tells a story of financial survival. Eventually, even the hard economy players reach a point of stability. It takes 10 times longer, but the math of the game, even modded, is designed to eventually let you win. You will eventually get that second truck. You will eventually hire that driver, and the slow creep toward invincibility begins again. It is the inescapable gravity of the game design. But the journey there was richer, grittier, and perhaps more satisfying because you counted every penny. As you pull your battered, high-mileage truck into a rest stop, checking the fuel gauge, which is dangerously low, because you were trying to stretch it to a cheaper state, you feel a different kind of satisfaction. It's not the satisfaction of being a tycoon, it's the satisfaction of being a survivor. You made it. You kept the lights on for another day. And in a world of infinite handouts, that small, hard-won victory feels incredibly real. And so we arrive at the end of our route. We have travelled from the humble beginnings of quick jobs in borrowed trucks to the dizzying heights of a multi-million-dollar logistics empire, and even dipped our toes into the masochism of purposefully difficult mods. But throughout this journey, one question lingers like the scent of ozone after a thunderstorm. Why? Why do we find such deep, abiding comfort in a system that is rigged to let us win? Why is the virtual economy so soothing to the modern soul? The answer lies in the psychological comfort of guaranteed success. In the real world, effort does not always equal reward. You can work hard, do everything right, and still fail due to forces completely outside your control. A recession, a corporate merger, a health crisis, or just bad luck. The feedback loop of reality is broken and noisy. You push a button, and sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes you get a shock. In the simulator, the feedback loop is perfect. You drive the mile, you get the dollar. You park the trailer, you get the XP. It is a linear, fair, and transparent contract. If you do the work, then you will succeed. There is no ambiguity. There is no office politics. The GPS doesn't lie to you to sabotage your career. The freight broker doesn't ghost you. The universe of the game is morally and economically consistent. This consistency is a powerful antidepressant. We live in an era of high anxiety and economic precarity. For many, the dream of home ownership, financial stability, or a secure retirement feels increasingly out of reach. We're constantly told to hustle, to grind, yet the goalposts keep moving. American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator 2 offer a sanctuary from this precarity. They offer a competence fantasy. You're good at this. You're capable. You can reverse a 53-foot trailer into a narrow dock, a skill that is tangible and visible. The game validates your competence every time the green parking outline appears. The invincibility we discussed earlier is not just about money, it's about control. In the cab of your truck, you are the master of your domain. You control the temperature, the radio station, the speed, and the destination. The world outside the window, the AI traffic, the weather, is just scenery. Nothing can truly hurt you. Even if you crash, you reset. This lack of permanent failure allows our nervous systems to downregulate. We switch from fight or flight to rest and digest. The repetitive nature of the task is also crucial. Driving is a flow state activity. It occupies the conscious mind just enough, keeping the truck in the lane, watching the mirrors, to quiet the intrusive thoughts, but not enough to cause stress. It is active meditation. The economy provides the framework, the why we are driving, but the act of driving provides the how we relax. The accumulation of wealth is just a way of keeping score in a game of solitaire we are playing against our own need for purpose. We also find comfort in the solitude. The social battery of modern life drains quickly. We are constantly connected, constantly perceiving, constantly performing. In the truck, you are alone. The AI drivers don't want to talk to you. The dispatchers don't call you. It is a socially undemanding space. You can just be. The virtual economy supports this solitude by making you self-sufficient. You don't need to network. You don't need to please a boss. You're an island of industry, self-contained and serene. The visuals of the bedtime drive reinforce this. The warm glow of the dashboard gauges in the dark, the rhythmic sweep of the headlights cutting through the night, the stars rotating slowly overhead. It is a primal, womb-like environment. The cab is a protective shell moving through a dark world. The economy is just the fuel that keeps the shell moving. It reassures us that we're going somewhere, that we are productive, even as we're essentially doing nothing but clicking buttons. Think about the sleep mechanic in the game. You pull into a rest stop, press enter, and the screen fades to black. You are resting. The world speeds up, time passes, and you wake up refreshed, the sun shining. It is the restorative sleep we often crave in real life but rarely get. In the game, rest is instant and effective. You wake up ready to work. The fatigue is gone. It is a simulation of perfect health and boundless energy. Ultimately, the virtual economy is a kindness. It is a digital hug. It tells us you're doing a good job. It tells us you are successful. It tells us everything is going to be okay. And for the hour or two we spend behind the virtual wheel, we believe it. We suspend our disbelief not just about the physics of the truck, but about the physics of the world. We accept a world where gas is cheap, roads are open, and the bank account only goes up. So as we park our trucks for the final time tonight, backing into that virtual garage that we own free and clear, looking at the fleet of machines we have acquired, we can take a deep breath. We haven't just wasted time in a video game. We have engaged in a therapeutic ritual. We have reminded ourselves of what it feels like to make progress, however simulated it may be. The engine idles one last time. The air pressure release hisses. Pshh. The lights flicker off. The virtual world waits for us, frozen in its perfection, ready to welcome us back whenever we need to feel like a winner again. The economy will be there, steady and strong, a golden safety net for our weary minds. And now, as the engine cools and the ticking of the metal fades into the silence of the garage, let's take a moment to unwind. The road has been long tonight, hasn't it? We've travelled from the nervous energy of the first quick job to the quiet confidence of the empire builder. We've seen the rain slick the asphalt and the sun bake the desert clay. We've felt the weight of the heavy haul and the freedom of the bobtail run. It's time to let the numbers fade away. The bank balance, the XP, the mileage, they don't matter right now. What matters is the stillness. You can feel your shoulders drop, the tension leaving your jaw. The hum of the highway is just a memory now, a soft white noise in the back of your mind. You're safe. You're parked. The delivery is done. Close your eyes if you like. Imagine the cabin of the truck dark and cozy. The smell of old leather and diesel faint and comforting. The bunk is ready. The world outside can wait until tomorrow. There are no deadlines here, no schedules, just the quiet dark and the promise of rest. You've done enough. You've driven enough. Let the breathing slow down, in and out. The road will be there when you wake up, endless and inviting. But for now, the journey is over. The logbook is closed. The keys are on the dash. Sleep well, driver.